Hi, I'm Chris Perkins. I am the D&D Creative Manager, and I'm doing this DM commentary on the Robot Chicken podcast. In this commentary, I'll talk about my experience running a game for the Robot Chicken writers, and also talk a little bit about the fine art of DMing, which is only slightly harder than breathing.
Believe it or not, and I'm real excited to be here.
I am a big fan of Robot Chicken and Greg the Bunny, and let me tell you how this all got started. I got a call from Dan Milano, who one of the writers on Robot Chicken, and also the voice of Greg the Bunny. And it was as if the Greg the Bunny puppet was actually calling me, because Dan sounds just like the character that he portrays. And he wanted me to know that he was a huge fan of the Penny Arcade podcast, which I had done a couple series of up to that point. And Dan wanted in, basically, and he said that he had some friends who were D&D curious and he wanted to get them involved as well. So we had this little love fest, you know, Dan talking about the podcast, me talking about Greg the Bunny, and we decided between the two of us that we had to get a group together and have some fun. But it took several months for our schedules to actually align. I think he called me back in March or April of 2009, and we actually shot the game right before Christmas 2009 in Hollywood, in the pouring rain, which I'll talk a little bit about later. Very unusual. When the gang sat down to actually play, it's worth noting that the players chose their characters from a selection of pre-gens that I had brought with me to the game. And they only had about 2 minutes to come up with a name for their characters beforehand.
Let me know what they are and I'll write them down so I can refer
Hence,
to the characters.
Ranrock.
Ranrock.
Ranrock. R-A-N.
Okay.
He ran and then he rocked.
Also ran.
All right.
This is Bluebell.
Bluebell. I love it. Bluebell the Drow.
He is a drow.
My boarder's name's Steel.
The stripper. The half-elf stripper. Yeah, so they really just sort of pulled these names out of their asses. I don't know how they came up with
I
them.
have a human wizard.
Yeah.
His name is Jaundice the Mauve.
Wow.
Yes.
Disgusting.
Until he dies, he will be Jaundice the Turquoise.
This is Jonathan? No, I'm kidding. This is
Jonathan would have been a good name for a Goliath.
and his name will be Kainuk Sin.
Kainuk Sin. Little piece of trivia for you. That's actually a really good Goliath name, even though Kevin probably didn't know it at the time. Goliaths were originally creations of game designer Dave Noonan, and their culture and naming conventions were very Polynesian in flavor, influenced by Dave's life growing up in Hawaii. Let me talk a little bit about Undermountain. I had spent about 2 weeks prior to this game putting together the adventure. And I really wanted it to rock, because I knew these guys, you know, they have their standards. They're not high, but they have standards. And the day before I was set to fly down, the adventure had to be completely thrown away. The folks on the marketing team came to me and said, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool, like, to tie this adventure that you're running for Robot Chicken into the new D&D Encounters program that we're running next year?" And D&D Encounters, for those who don't know, is a very exciting organized play program, or it's basically run by our organized play folks, and it's about players in stores playing D&D and having a lot of fun. So this was a great idea. Pity it came to me at such late notice, because I not only had to throw the adventure out that I had written, which was more of a swamp-based romp with lizard folk and a black dragon wormling, but I had to create the new adventure basically on the plane ride down. And I had to draw the maps for the adventure in my hotel room in Hollywood. And of course I had to bring all my marking pens and everything down with me, and
He's also wearing a tremendous amount of armor.
Tremendous amount of armor.
Possibly 2 suits of armor, you're not exactly sure.
I think if any race can wear 2 suits of armor, it's a dwarf.
The woman is all smiles, and she stares up at you, and she says, "Oh, hello. Welcome."
Originally, the character of the NPC of Trillian, their benefactor, was going to be, I think, a half-elf. And there was a reason for that, but when I got to sorting out the miniatures that I brought with me to play, I realized I didn't have a half-elf figure, but I had a halfling female, so Trillian Galloway became a halfling.
So you found my notice then.
Tip number 1, DM tip number 1, when in doubt, wing it.
I must say, you're not the first to come by. I hope you'll be more successful.
Let me talk a little bit about the location where we played. The room you're seeing is actually on the second floor of a Hollywood club near the Renaissance Hotel in Hollywood. The club, which I won't name here, was this dark and dingy hole, literally a hole in a wall. And it actually felt like we were playing in a dungeon. Also, did I mention the rain? You probably can't tell listening to this, but the downpour was astonishing. Hollywood almost never gets rain, and we got absolutely drenched the whole time we were there. It did not stop. And it was absolutely beating down on this place, and this place was not designed to be water repellent. So water was pouring down through the ceiling, through doorways, and as the game progressed, the puddle of water under the table that we were playing on became increasingly deep. And I became increasingly concerned because there were like wires passing under our chairs from cameras and lights and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, yeah, I could see the headlines for this already, you know. Head writers of Robot Chicken electrocuted playing D&D.
You signed your release forms.
Oh, but they signed their release forms.
The dwarf will not really say anything as all of this happens, and then she says, "Oh, forgive me, I forgot to
As a little tip to the hat, I'm wearing my Penny Arcade Roll Initiative T-shirt. So I thought that was all well and good.
I don't trust this guy. Just putting it out there.
She says, "What do you know about the Sentinel Shields?" And you all sort of puzzle for a moment. I'd like at this time for everyone to make a history check. Your skills are in the bottom left-hand corner of your character sheet. There should be a line for history, and the number right in front of it is what you add to a D20.
Now, this is how I prefer to teach the rules to people who have never played before. The players had no rules prep beforehand. I knew that Tom, Kevin, and Zeb didn't have much gaming experience, and I didn't want to throw a bunch of rules and terminology at them. So basically, I jumped right into the story, didn't talk about the rules at all. That was a decision I'd made on the fly. Which brings us to DM survival tip number 2. Keep the story moving and just go with the flow.
2.
You guys weren't listening.
No, you're not making your bonus.
The drow is like, why am I
your
here
bonus
again?
is 0.
Something about a
So you
shield.
add 0 to 2.
Right.
So I think you have your thumb in your mouth.
You don't have to write anything down, just have to add numbers.
Meanwhile,
So really, this whole roll the history check is their first real contact with dice rolling in the game. Up to this point, they've had a conversation with an NPC. They've gotten the lay of the land. They kind of know what they're doing and where they're going. And the idea of the D20 roll, the sort of overruling mechanic of the game, really sort of comes out in this practical sense.
right. I've never played D&D before. I don't know about these Sentinel Shields.
Bards travel the world. Bards pick up all sorts of knowledge. Bards pick up all
All right, I'm back. This is Chris Perkins for part 2 of the DM commentary.
Shields are 3 legendary relics entrusted to dwarves of the Malerkin clan, who were the builders of Undermountain. Basically, they had these 3
I didn't make that
shields
up.
to 3
The Malerkin clan is real. I pulled that information out of some Undermountain books that I had brought with me.
To which she adds, yes, and it was recently discovered...
The Sentinel Shields, however, were completely made up. On the airplane to Hollywood, I came up with this idea, very simple storyline, that there's this halfling who has taken over the residence of a dwarven wizard and learned that the residence covers up an entrance into Undermountain that leads to the tomb of a dwarven champion, who was known as the Orc Slayer. And I wanted to make this a fairly straightforward experience for the players, so it was, you know, go down into the tomb, find the MacGuffin, get out, and give it to your benefactor. With a couple twists, which hopefully I'll talk about later. So this particular dwarf, the Orc Slayer, was sort of themed along the idea of I had all these orc skeleton figures that I wanted to use, and I thought, well, what would a dwarf called the Orc Slayer adorn his tomb with? probably the skeletal remains of those he'd killed. And I thought those orc skeletons would make a fine future encounter, and they will. And then I thought, well, I like the idea of he wasn't just the only Dwarven champion that was entombed down here, that there were two others, the Iron Warlord and the Heartless Dwarf. And these would be sort of give the players a sense that the world is a bigger place, that, you know, if they were of a mind to, in future adventures, they could maybe go and try to find the tomb of the Iron Warlord or find the tomb of the Heartless Dwarf. And I was also thinking, maybe as part of the D&D Encounters program, or some future program, maybe even a future video cast, we might be able to take these other ideas that don't figure prominently into this adventure and gain some use out of them. Or maybe somebody listening to this video cast will be inspired to create the tombs of the other dwarf champions, either for their own campaigns or maybe as a submission to Dungeon Magazine.
Asking if she was going to use the shield for evil.
Also, the coin sack is gone.
She says, I do hope that you were discreet in coming here. I would certainly hate any of my rivals to know that what I found.
I told no one.
The rivals. I had envisioned that the NPC Trillian Galloway was not the only one who knew about the shield of the Orc Slayer. That others have probably tried to find the entrance to the Orc Slayer's tomb, or tried to take over the residence which she currently possesses. And I envisioned that this adventure would end with the characters returning the shield to Trillian, and then one of her rivals showing up to take it from them. And as this adventure was progressing and the players were getting into their characters and we were running combats, it became perfectly clear to me that we probably wouldn't get that far into the adventure, that we'd be lucky just for them to get the shield and then get the hell out. So, I won't give any more away, but if we do get the gang back together again for another video cast, maybe I'll just pick up where this game left off.
I need finances. This is a great opportunity for us to build our name. We could incorporate. We could become known the countryside over.
This guy right here, Dan, he's the instigator of all of this. He shackled these guys and brought them in, and big D&D fan. And the only active 4th edition player in the group up to this point.
She says, well, in the interest in cementing our relationship, she snaps her fingers, and you see Zarko produce a bottle of wine. And he lays out some tankards and pours drinks for all of you and the two of them. And,
Zarko sounds much cooler than he actually is. I envision that this dwarf, wearing these double suit of armor and carrying these 17 weapons, was meant to look like a badass, but like he actually had a glass jaw, so I actually kind of painted him in my mind as a minion. You know, if he took one hit, he'd go down.
You are twice his height.
Could I do some sort of knowledge to you know, at the mention of spiders, if there's anything I might know about what we would need to defend ourselves from spider folk?
Yes, absolutely. Make a knowledge, a dungeoneering check in this case.
Okay. I got a 21.
When you start to ask a little bit about, or you sort of contemplate the types of spiders that might actually be lurking down underneath the city, based on reports and other adventuring reports and things that you've heard, you think that basically they, other than being poisonous, they can just be smashed into a pulp with big weapons or blown to bits with spells. They're fairly rudimentary dungeon dwellers.
All that, you know?
I am not talking. I must be enamored with the sound of my own voice. No, that isn't it, but I just have nothing to say. Yet. Here they're sort of trying to figure out what they're in for. I've got a bunch of miniatures hidden behind my DM screen there, but they don't know what I got. I had to travel fairly light. I brought my 3 core rulebooks, I brought some Undermountain references, which I could read on the plane, brought my dice, brought my minis, brought the big rollout maps, which you can see in the middle of the table there. Let me talk a little bit about maps for a second. When I laid the maps out, I didn't bother to hide parts of the dungeon. I pretty much just sprawled the first map out there. They could see pretty much everything that they were in for. Mostly because it just would have looked bad on camera to put this big map down and then cover it up with little pieces of paper or some stupid thing. I used wet erase battle maps because they were easier to roll up and take with me on the plane. I didn't want to have to, before the game, fidget with too many little pieces or dungeon tiles or anything like that. So this was just easier for me.
You are stealthy. So you can go way out in front.
The wet erase battle maps also allowed me to add a little bit of artistic flourish to the maps. One of the things I'm known for around the office is my map making. I will often do big, giant, elaborate maps on whiteboards and then add my own grid. And they tend to stay up on the whiteboards for several days because people are loath to erase them. I got a bit of a drafting background.
I think Bluebell has a couple spaces on us because he's being stealthy.
All the maps with their little rough-hewn walls, and I drew in all the little bits of rubble, and I'm a sad, pathetic creature.
Put a meat wall behind me. Because I'm in a robe.
Safely in the middle and entertaining people with song.
Meat wall is a technical term.
Well, you are very pleased that this staircase has remarkable acoustics. It's like your voice just descends for miles and then comes back to you. And it sounds quite entrancing.
I don't know who that person is walking in the background. Oh, I think she was one of the people who of the club who were helping us find tables and chairs. This club, finding pieces of furniture that actually kind of looked like they matched, was a Herculean chore. But I gotta hand it to them, their chairs were pretty comfortable. I did not have a comfortable chair. I had the crappiest, most rickety, run-down stool. It was very, very hard, and it encouraged me not to sit down a whole lot. These guys have their big padded chairs. It's also unfair. DM is always suffering.
From the webs, almost like it's suspended from the ceiling. Your 11 is also enough to see what appears to be a dwarven face carved into the wall over here.
I never noticed it.
Near a set of iron doors.
A little DM cheat. I didn't have a specific DC in mind when I had them make perception checks to spot things. I basically just had them roll. I just wanted them to roll the dice. Regardless of what they'd rolled, I probably would have told them the same amount of information about the face in one direction that they could go investigate, or the webs in the other direction which they could investigate.
Should we, can the group hear me? Yeah, I guess because of the stairwell, I can shout back.
A good dungeon always presents players with choices, or at least the illusion of choice.
Stone face, spiders.
Stone face?
Welcome to part 3 of the DM commentary. I'm Chris Perkins.
Are you guys gonna like huddle in the dark of the passageway here while he goes out on his own?
Yeah.
All right.
I am surrounded by talented people at this table, let me tell you. Did I mention I was a huge fan of their shows?
All right. When you go over to the face and you actually stand in front of it, it comes alive.
In fact, I just recently saw season 4 of Robot Chicken on DVD.
Opens
Highly
its
recommend it.
squinty eyes and looks at you and says, well,
I don't recommend
well,
you
what do we
watch
have
it while
here?
you are, like, in your kitchen with a knife in your hand, cutting vegetables. Likely to cut off a few of your
I
fingers.
have not seen the likes of you in a long time.
I have no idea where the voice for the talking dwarf face came from. It just sort of came out.
You don't need to make a
I did
check
not
to see
go
that,
into the game
this talking
knowing
dwarf
how I
face
was going to do the voice or even thinking about it.
also has what appears to be a stud in its stone tongue, which is a glowing gem.
I wanted to give the dungeon some
What
character,
brings you up to
literally.
these parts?
DM tip number 3, sometimes things make the best characters.
We were going to check out Spider.
We?
If the voice has any inspiration at all,
Who else is there? I can't see any of them.
Just like, oh. Who said it first?
I mean the royal.
The voice is a combination probably of Foghorn Leghorn and George Jefferson.
I've not had company in a long, long time.
All right, guys, come over here.
All right, you sheepishly
Amble over.
Usually the dwarf voices I do are just generally very gruff, but fairly non-specific. This one here had a bit of a twang, and I have no idea where the inspiration actually came
Pleasure
from.
to meet you all. I hope you fare better than the last crew came through.
The gem that studs the dwarven face's tongue was actually deliberate, and I had planned that fairly well in advance. The idea occurred to me on the plane when I thought, wouldn't it be cool if they had an opportunity to solve a puzzle and get something that could help them with a future encounter? So I sort of kicked things off with a puzzle, which is really just a geometry problem. I figured dwarves, being good builders, would infuse the puzzle with a little bit of actual under-mountain lore to reinforce where the adventure was taking place. And also, because they're good builders, a geometric puzzle would not be beyond them.
He says, I'll tell you what. If you can answer 3 questions for me, then I will give you my gem.
Never hurts to have a little bit of Monty Python either. You answer these 3 questions.
I am just, after all, a face.
And if you were an architect of this...
I'm pulling dialogue right out of my ass here.
Could you tell us about any structural...
They're so good to humor me.
You know, any structural traps that might await us, or any areas of the dungeon that might be unsafe?
Yes, beware of doorknobs.
If I were so inclined.
We are great admirers.
But let me first...
We'll do the questions.
Well, that will certainly place a lot of trust in me and you. I don't want to give out information to just anybody.
Me and you and me.
Certainly don't look like just anybody.
By the way, when you're watching these podcasts,
All right, if you're ready, first question.
apart from the fact that they're all very funny,
When?
every time, just watch Zeb's expressions. This guy cracks me up without saying a single word.
13.
Okay, they should be able to pull this off. They've done history checks before.
13.
Yep.
13 plus.
I mean, look at it. Look how quickly these guys who've never played D&D before just sort of pick it up. They automatically go for the D20.
Blackcloak was this infamous, powerful archwizard who basically took over Undermountain, filled it full of monsters because he was crazy, and basically he and his apprentices shorted up whole
Blah, 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 history, blah, blah, blah.
treasures there and kind of made it his own.
One of the virtues of 4th edition is that it is got a very easy learning curve. Once you sort of introduce players to the D20 and the concept of adding a number to it, that pretty much covers the bases. And then the only other thing they need to know is where their hit points are and their attack bonus.
Here's a toughie. What is the current year? You don't have to roll. You all know it is 1479.
All right. The year was 1479.
1479.
Really? 1479. My, how time flies. All right, third and final question. My adventuresome folk. Now, you got an isosceles triangle. One of the sides is 168, and one of the sides is 1479. Third side.
That's awesome.
Watching their faces when they realized they had to do a math problem in D&D, yeah, that's always fun.
Easy as pie.
I forgot
You must have dwarven blood in your veins.
Tom got it. He knows his isosceles triangles. Probably his equilateral triangles, too. Lucky for the rest of the players, I guess. I gave the players deliberately time at the front of this session to find their characters, to role play, to get a sense that they could influence people and events through their actions and their conversations before throwing them into a combat encounter. Up to this point, we're, 3 segments in now, and they haven't really gotten into a fight yet. And so to the people who say 4th edition D&D isn't about role-playing, I say, you're dumb.
Thing appears like some centipede or something.
You got a nice sizzling strike. Where's the antivenom?
He says,
Can I attempt a little diplomacy to see if we can't get a little insight into the architecture of the
you
dungeon?
sure can.
You know, please, friend, see reason. We would like the chance to fare better than our predecessors, and so I implore to you with a 21.
Spectacular. He says, well, the dungeon has shifted over time, and some of the passageways are new.
With a 21, you know all the floor tiles are square.
That's all new. I don't know what's over there. But behind these iron doors, you'll see a room that has...
It's kind of fun that the characters, their first interaction in the dungeon is to talk to one of its architects. The fact that they can get all this information about the dungeon before they sort of find themselves trapped in it. I thought that was kind of a clever take, well, if I do say so myself, on dungeon design, something you don't typically see in dungeons. Often the architects are long gone, and the only trace of themselves is the rooms and monsters they leave behind.
That leads to the tomb.
Sweet.
Okay.
I sketch a little map on parchment.
It's also interesting to me because dungeons can often be lifeless places full of constructs and undead, and a character such as this face carved into the wall carrying the spirit of the architect, is a great way to kind of make it feel like a living place.
How do you get through these iron doors?
Do you lock the door?
He says, the doors are magically locked.
Let's talk a little bit about dungeon design,
Arcana or thievery.
since we're talking about actual dungeon features. A good dungeon always presents choices, or at least, as I was saying earlier, the illusion of choice. In this case, the players here are eventually going to have to choose between either going the way of the spiders or trying to get through the mysterious iron doors.
Should we try to pick that lock?
And which will they choose? Which will they choose?
He says, I used to have the key before I died.
It's a great way to empower the players, to give them a sense that the dungeon is a realistic place,
The key is lost to me.
that it isn't just a linear go from one room to the next room to the next room to the next room, that the choices they make will have repercussions on their success and possibly change the whole dungeon environment.
I hope you find what you're looking for.
I wish you all well.
By Stoneface.
This is segment 4 of the DM commentary. I'm Chris
Tom
Perkins.
has a
Two thievery.
He could try to...
Should we try to get through those doors?
Yeah, let's give it a whirl.
All right. Bluebell.
As you watch this commentary, you will quickly realize that Tom Root is the group's voice of reason.
All right. Bluebell fidgets with the locking mechanism, and you hear a loud click, which signifies the doors have been breached. Bluebell's head goes tumbling. When you push the doors open, they squeal on old hinges, and you see the room beyond very much like that. There is a
I certainly hope that anybody watching this podcast gets the sense that, hey, this is a lot like our gaming group.
There are 4 iron drums set into the floor here.
I mean, different people sitting at the table, but the experiences are very similar.
Big hammers.
Certainly I'm not doing anything as a DM that's I consider to be out of the ordinary or over the top. I certainly didn't want to try to dominate the scene or take the thunder away from these guys, because honestly, I am not funny. However, they are.
Can we stealthy? What if we got through the whole thing with
The other thing is,
That should be our new goal.
They had the choice between spiders and the doors. They went through the doors, and so we enter the trap room,
very cold air, and the floor
thus avoiding the traditional monster fight. So let's talk about the path not taken a little bit, because
the floor looks very slippery.
they actually don't get back to the spiders until near the end of the session, and we were kind of rushed then as well. And I had this idea for the spiders that not only were there spiders hiding in the webs, but there was this large spider, sort of the mother spider, who had all of these skeletons dangling like puppets throughout the room on thin strands of webbing. And she could pull on the strands of her web to animate them and make them attack. But the best part is at the back of the cave, I had the idea and I'm a very twisted individual, of this old guardian, this dead floating beholder. Because I wanted them to walk into the cave and see this floating shape and have like Dan and a few of the people who, and Doug, who knew D&D, recognize it as a beholder and think, oh shit, we gotta get out of here, man. But not know it's dead right away, and have a spider swarm living inside of its dead husk and have it come pouring out when they got too close. I thought that would get a reaction. So feel free to steal that one for your own game.
When Bluebell takes his first step on the dais,
Spider swarm and a dead rotting beholder.
You can see that.
I think Tom went on that dais deliberately. I think he wanted to provoke the room.
And there are icicles hanging from it, like the moisture came down through the roof and then froze. The dais kind of lights up with runes. Glyphs appear on the stone.
Like Billie Jean.
And at this point in time...
Blah, blah, dais. I want to go back to talking about the dead beholder, because that's just cooler. It's like some horrid D&D pinata.
Hammers down and just pound on the iron drums.
Maybe they're here to help.
All right.
Let's go back to
Toughness and wit. Toughness and wit.
The inspiration for the iron drums came while I was searching through my enormous D&D minis collection for cool minis to take with me on the flight. And I had a bunch of minis of dwarf-shaped golems with big hammers raised above their heads. And I thought about using them as statues in this obviously dwarven dungeon. Originally, I envisioned them lining a hall, and the characters would have to run through the hall without getting smashed by the statues. The drums idea came much later as I was in my hotel room drawing the map and trying to come up with cool features to put in the room.
Take 5 thunder damage, so that comes off of your hit points. Yes. And you are momentarily deafened.
Here's the first instance where we have hit points coming into play.
Something materializes in the middle of the dais, and it looks exactly like this.
Aha, we can use that.
Just like it's conjured out of nowhere. A gigantic dragon...
Half of my vocabulary as a human being pretty much came out of D&D. I started playing back in the late 70s and had no idea what a portcullis was, what bas-relief was, what a dais was. D&D has done so much for my vocabulary.
I-N-I-T. It's under your hit points and your speed.
Is it also INT?
Yeah.
No, that's intelligence.
We're rolling initiative for the first time because the Arcane Ballista has just appeared. And honestly, I did not have a great inkling for how big a role this Arcane Ballista would play in this particular adventure. Originally, it was just part of this trap. It would materialize in the middle of the room and breathe fire on the characters, and it would sort of turn and reorient itself to try to catch as many of them as possible in the blast. It was also the way to get around the frozen doors at the far end of the room. The characters wanted to cross the room, they had to get through the frozen doors. One way to do that was to trick or aim the Arcane Ballista at the doors and get it to melt the ice. It's always fun when a trap can be used against the room.
What is this, by the way?
Thanks for asking. You all have a special card called Action Point. Once during the encounter, you can spend that...
Ah, yes, Doug discovered the special cheese.
So you could attack twice, for instance.
Doug is a 3.5 player and runs in a current 3.5 game, so action points are a new concept to him.
One is called a standard action, which is normally an attack. One is called a move action, which lets you move up to your speed. Most of you move about 5 or 6 squares. And the third is called a minor action, which is really only good for things like opening and closing doors, pulling something out of a backpack, really just incidental actions. And you can do those in any order, so you can move...
As you can see, we're pretty far into the rules of the adventure when I first introduced the players to the concept of actions. The standard action, the move action, and the minor action.
Where I can move and attack?
Yes, absolutely.
So, in a mad rage, I'm going to...
What are we fighting?
You're on a hair trigger.
Looks like you're fighting some sort
Doug is about to demonstrate his special skill.
We're fighting that?
Well, it's up to you.
Nothing's moved yet.
There's also the statues.
The statues hit the drum.
And you see the statues are just sort of pulling their hammers back. They look more like just like machines, mechanical things.
We need to stop that.
Oh, wait.
So-
Can we just leave? I don't know. I don't know what we're fighting. Can we just try to make it across this room and get out of here?
Oh, to those other doors?
Yeah.
You
Tom
can run
Root,
over there.
voice of reason.
Oh, you can.
If initiative was rolled, we're not the only ones who rolled it.
I'm going to jump to inappropriate conclusions.
Insult our guests.
Swing my sword.
All right, excellent. Before you do that, do me a favor. Because you moved more than 2 squares, and this is not something you would know ahead of time, and the floor is ice, I need you to make an acrobatics check for me. So it's on your skill list near the top.
A 1.
Oh my gosh!
The ice was an incredibly frustrating terrain element, but in a fun way. There was an obvious way to get around it, and that is to move very slowly.
Although you're prone, though, it doesn't keep you from attacking.
And, you know,
It just means
characters
that you're
falling
taking a
down,
penalty
always funny.
when you attack.
All right, I'm going to still swing that sword.
All right, you try to hit the statue in a place in order to disable it.
Do I keep going when I fall because it's icy? Just...
Kind of. You just kind of slide up against the base of the statue. Make an attack roll. This is probably a basic attack for you. So on your character sheet, you should have where your weapon is listed. Do you see that?
Basic attacks?
Yeah.
3.
Okay.
So I roll. Oh, another 1.
Oh, jeez.
Wow, 4 total.
Here's Doug's special skill. He is really good at rolling ones.
They don't tactically know we've even attacked in this fight, so we can stick it and walk out.
All right. When you are close enough to the statue to see, you can see.
Hopefully, Doug's first 4th edition experience isn't sullied too severely by his pathetic dice rolling.
A thievery check to kind of disable it. You could also invoke ancient arcane rituals to kind of deactivate it. So there are all kinds of ways to handle these things.
Okay.
After Steel Diamond has his moment,
DM tip number 3.
it is the Goliath's turn.
Always give players lots of things to do.
What does that mean?
It means that
Welcome to segment 5 of the DM commentary. I'm Chris
you're
Perkins.
probably going to be hitting things with your greatsword a lot. You probably need to move up to them to hit them so that you're next to them. You've already seen, well, you've heard the half-elf take a bit of a spill.
Yes.
Once you
Kevin is about to make his first attack as a D&D player ever.
An acrobatics check to see if you can hold your feet.
Okay. So, do I roll?
For moving, you don't have to do anything except move your figure where you want to go, but your speed is limited to 6 squares.
Okay. So maybe just go to the closest one.
3. Should I go check him out?
Yeah.
6.
Or can you? Is there a way he can get next to it?
Next to the statue?
Yeah, or is it too far away?
Where
He
he
can't,
already is,
no,
right?
because he's occupying that square.
Right.
So you started here. If you went 1, 2, 3, 4 over the drum.
DM tip number 4. Wherever possible, just say yes. Let the characters,
You can make
let
a
the
diagonal
players
move, too.
do what they want.
But because you're going more than
That's not to say that they should run roughshod over your dungeon, but if there's any question about whether a character can try something or whether they can't try something, I generally err on the side of can.
Such skill I've never seen.
he says, looking up from the ground.
I'm glad that Kevin didn't fall down on his first roll ever.
Attack the statue or attack the drum. You don't want to attack the half-elf. He's
Yeah.
If you take out that drum, there won't be any more noise.
No one has instigated anything with us.
Why do you even go over there? Get to the door.
No, that banging hurts.
Well, you don't know that could take 10 more turns before the...
This encounter shows us just how much the group was willing to endure to avoid fighting the spiders. And they're going to make some rookie errors here. They're going to basically all sort of run to different corners of the room and try to take out different things. Jongus is going to go after the Arcane Ballista. Tom's character Bluebell is going to go to try to open the doors on the far side of the room. Kainuk Sin is going to attack this statue, and Ranrock's going to attack that statue.
This.
okay. All right.
That's always the...
You're not a fey little
He
elf.
takes up his big great sword. Ah! Now you're making an attack roll. Your great sword.
I love players who ask the question, what would my character do?
8. So 8 plus 7 is 15. That's going to do it.
It's the difference between role-playing and
1d10
min-maxing.
damage. Your D10 is here, and you add 4 to it.
I'm sorry, so I
Yeah, so now you're rolling damage to
Okay,
see how
gotcha.
much damage you do to the statue.
8.
8 plus 4 is 12. That damages the statue, but it still looks like it could still function.
I'm sure it could.
It needs to take more than that. All right, and that's the Goliath's turn. On the next turn, it is Bluebell. the
Wow. Well,
drow. You are staring down this horrid construct.
I am. Now, I have 6 speed. So I'm just gonna
Tom is
hit
about to
this
do the
thing.
smart thing, which is getting out of the room as quickly as possible.
Correct.
Can
You
I
have
go
to
diagonally?
Yes, you totally can.
So, whoops. 1, 2, 3.
Stop. Once you get there, make an acrobatics check. for me.
Right. That's 7.
Oh, you're doing just fine.
Plus 10 is 17.
Plenty. You can keep on moving.
All right. That was 3, 4,
5, 6. All right. You get to the doors now. Normally,
Tom and Doug are the head writers on Robot Chicken, and they were telling me a little bit about their experiences working on Wizard Magazine back in the day. And the thing I remember most fondly about Wizard Magazine is the things that they had a big hand in, which were those wonderful
Do I get a sense of whether they're
little
magic
comic
sealed
panels,
or
comic
just
strip
stuff?
panels
they look
with
like
action
that
figures.
they are,
Had very similar humor to
frozen shut.
the type of humor in Robot Chicken.
You think that
So I was goobing over that.
it might take some force to open them.
Or heat.
Or heat.
Perhaps some dark fire.
Perhaps some dark fire.
Yeah. Can I attack doors with dark fire?
Let me take a look.
Tom's about to be disappointed here because the Darkfire power targets only creatures, not objects. So it's a little bit of a bummer. But that, of course,
That the target has to be one creature.
means that Tom later hits upon the idea of using the Arcane Ballista.
What else do I got going on here?
Oh, bummer. Well. As I said earlier in the commentary, by this time there was a significant puddle of water forming under the game table, and also under Doug and Tom's chairs.
Daily.
Pull out your daily what, Tom?
Oh, that's usable against creatures
To
too.
bite at the door thusly.
Hack at the door with my swords.
Well, here's what I'm rocking. I got Hit and Run, Hunter's Quarry, Shield of Blades.
You're of a mind, based on the abilities that you have, that it would probably just take somebody strong using a strength check to try to power the doors open,
Okay.
or finding a way to melt them that is not readily apparent.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you're pretty strong.
4 is my
You are
mod
strong.
plus half level. Plus 4.
You throw yourself up against the ice, and it does not budge.
Don't worry, guys. Next turn, I'll get it.
So that was a move action for you, and a standard to basically.
Yeah,
throw your weight against
Drow,
the
they
wall.
can't really throw a lot of weight
Basically
behind
done at
their...
this point.
All right.
All right. Immediately after Bluebell goes, this thing activates.
I think that Bluebell deserves his own television series, frankly. With a name like that,
The face of this thing kind of animates a little bit and says, "You don't belong here."
No.
Get out
And
of
it
here.
will spin around, spin around, spin around. It will stop here. And then it
Token
will
scratchy,
breathe
hissy voice.
Flame, filling up.
the ballista fires a blast of flame, a 5x5 blast of flame.
You've got cover against the flames. It just shoots out this
I made up the
big
stats for the Arcane Ballista
that
the night
engulfs
before.
Goliath and
It's a unique creature. I don't think it's appeared per se
Now
in
I'm
any
going to make
print
an
product
attack
we've
roll
done
against
so
each of
far.
you. First against the Goliath. This is going to be
I just needed something with a sufficient blast radius and something that was cool.
12. You are not
Wait,
the most
guys.
reflexy.
That thing shoots fire.
I also like the fact that it could also talk. It added more character to the room.
All right.
It gave
Then
the potential
attacks
for
you,
future
but it rolled
interactions.
horribly. It only rolled a 9.
Great.
So you duck out of the way of the flames against the half-elf who's got cover.
I like the idea that not all NPCs have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head.
For your cover is 12. Does 12 hit your reflex?
Well, 12 is my reflex.
This is also the beginning of what I refer to as the Bard beatdown. So Steel Diamond takes a real pummeling in this adventure. I'm sure Doug had it coming for some reason.
That's true. You take
It's not that I have anything against bards. Well, maybe I do, but I've been playing D&D since first edition, and bards have mechanically, traditionally, sucked as a class. They've often touted as being great for players who like a role-playing, R-O-L-E, challenge, but aren't necessarily the most optimized characters. 4th edition, by the way, changes that. The bard in 4th edition is a kick-ass leader character. It's just Doug doesn't have a lot of luck on his side in this particular adventure. And not just in this encounter, but in future encounters, you're going to see that Steel Diamond takes a shit-kicking.
It's one of your blue cards.
Oh, to create light.
Yeah.
So I can create light. How is the light in here, by the way? Is it only the light of the flame right now?
It's pretty much the light of your torches.
Okay. And what were you saying about floating?
I was just saying, you're going to have to roll that acrobatic thing. You're going to end up like old Steel Diamond.
I know.
Skidding across the floor.
I'm going to try I would like to, can I, as a minor action, take a moment to look at that thing and try to discern something about it with, like, a dungeoneering or something? Have I ever seen
Absolutely.
something like this?
Either dungeoneering or arcana, whichever you prefer.
Okay. My arcana's +10.
This is the moment when Jaundice the Mauve realizes that the Arcane Ballista may be defeatable in an atypical way, that destroying it may not be necessary. If the wizard can pull his arcane thoughts together, he might be able to take control of it. And wouldn't that be cool? Segment 6. I'm Chris Perkins.
It's a semi-sentient construct.
All right.
And so it does have an intelligence.
Without knowing how these guys played, I kind of expected a straight-up fight with the Arcane Ballista. But here's a case where the players inspired me. They went out of their way not to fight it. So, for that eventuality, I had prepared a mini skill challenge.
Can't be reasoned with?
It can't really be reasoned
We need to
with.
get you
It's
over
kind
there
of
thieving
programmed
something.
to defend an area, and that's really all it does.
Okay. All right, so I was going to attack it, but let me see if I know...
So,
do I know...
I'm a big fan of skill challenges, and
I guess, no, I
they're a really nice
I know
add
Dwarven,
to
so
the
that's
D&D
out,
game.
But I recognize this as a magical
For
flame,
those
I'm gonna
who
attempt to use an arcana
don't
check to try
really
to
have a
get
handle on them yet, a skill challenge,
You think it might take more
well,
than
let
one,
me
but that's okay.
put it this way. Just as a monster can be defeated with a certain number of hits, a skill challenge can be overcome with a certain number of successful skill checks,
Okay, that is one
which must be
success.
achieved before 3 failures.
You need 3 more.
Jaundice just got his first success at this particular skill challenge to try to take control of the Arcane Ballista.
Steer clear of this thing. I'm trying to get control.
Those of you who have thievery think that they could probably get in there if they're next to it and kind of jimmy with its mechanisms too to sort of control.
The most effective skill challenges that I've run have always kind of happened amid combat, or happened at the same time other things are going on, because that gives a layer of choice to the players, which is very interesting to me, which is, you know, do I run over here and fight this monster, or do I go over here and help, you know, so-and-so disable this trap?
Well, I'm going to leave this gong show.
Anytime where the characters have to make interesting tactical choices or decisions about who or what they want to deal with in a given round, that does a lot to make the encounter more memorable, more challenging, and more fun.
The team.
This guy. What makes the most sense?
And I think
Guys.
the Moab.
Zeb has the most amazingly dry humor.
I'm going for this guy. 1, 2, 3.
I would love to see him run a D&D game. I think he'd be a fantastic DM.
You're going to be okay.
Oh, I have a -4 acrobatics.
Oh, wow.
I got a 13.
That's enough.
Okay.
Ranrock, not the most coordinated. He won't be a tightrope walking anytime soon.
Introduce my Warhammer.
Okay.
What if I just pound it on the barrel?
That's a great option. You think that if it can't sound the drum, then
Right.
it will
But it
basically
might
be
sound the drum.
impotent. But you could try to smash the drum.
Sound the drum!
I think I'll go for the.
You could also try to move the drum.
Ah.
It doesn't look like these statues have any ability to
Oh.
adjust it.
Because that's what the players need right now, are more options. Oh yeah, you can move the drum.
I'm a self-loathing
Excellent.
statue.
So you're probably making just a regular weapon attack against the statue.
You know, I was so concentrated on the game at the time, I totally missed some of the best lines. I'm a self-loathing statue. That's awesome. Makes me think I should start taping all my regular weekly games just to capture some of the great lines that get spewed out.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a 10?
That's a 10.
15.
All right, you disabled that statue.
All right.
Okay.
Doing pretty good.
3 to go.
Move along.
That's all. Okay, we are back to Steel Diamond. Standing up is a move action.
Well, here I am, deaf on the floor, not knowing what's going on, burnt, but don't know why. I'm going to stand up.
Okay.
And I am going to,
Does he have to roll to stand up?
No.
once again, swing my sword.
Doug's thinking right now, how the hell
Can I turn my head to watch what happens?
do I make this guy cool?
Well, I got a lucky 7 this time.
Is that including the attack
That
bonus?
includes the bonus.
All right, you strike ineffectually at the statue.
Not so lucky.
Not good against...
At least the other players are finding humor in Doug's misery.
Goliath
Doug's thinking, I could be playing Nintendo right now.
Steel. Could you guys make a perception check for me?
Yes.
You notice that part of the wall here is collapsed behind the statue. I just want to see if you notice anything
Oh,
beyond it.
no.
Here we see the drawbacks of splitting your attacks. The players being new
You notice
have pretty much spread themselves all over the room, which isn't necessarily a bad thing tactically for this room because it prevents the Arcane Ballista from hitting several of them at once. I don't think that's what was actually in their head when they were in this encounter at the time.
Everyone be quiet. Steel's talking.
and Kainuk Sin.
Our
You're up.
master tactician.
So now
Makes
I'm...
me laugh.
Yeah, you see that the statues have basically gone back to their fully upright position
Oh,
now.
no.
Basically, it took them all of a round to do that.
Oh
Where are
no.
my statues in?
And that thing just breathed fire at you.
You've got to be close to disabling that one, though.
So Dan pretty much spent this encounter trying to gain control of the ballista, which prevented him from doing other cool things that wizards are known to do, such as the nature of this particular skill challenge. As a DM, you have to make the challenge of the entire encounter fun for everyone. In this case, I think Dan seemed pretty happy and engaged doing what he was doing. In my home games, I've run skill challenges that involve the entire party, and others that involve only 1 or 2 characters while the rest are off doing something else. There was one particular skill challenge that I ran once where it was the start of a session. I knew at the start of a session that one of the characters was not with the rest of the party. He had been absent the session before. So I turned the skill challenge into him trying to get back to the party. And he was being chased by some campaign bad guys. And so while the party was fighting on board the deck of this ship, this other character was several blocks away with his running urban chase, making his way to the rest of the party with the bad guys chasing after him. And the nature of the skill challenge was every time he achieved 3 successes in the skill challenge, one of the bad guys who was chasing him would fall away, would get lost or would lose sight of him or whatever. So if he was ultimately successful and he succeeded at all, whatever it was, 12 challenges or 8 challenges or whatever it was, that he could theoretically lose all of the bad guys. As it happened, he did not completely succeed at the skill challenge, and one of the bad guys managed to make it all the way back with him.
It says, you do not enjoy success.
So,
You do not enjoy success. Another way of saying, you fail! Failure, you're a failure. I was being nice.
Catching the 2 of you and the doors.
Feeling a tickle in its anus, turns to see.
And the doors. Yes, the Arcane Ballista is about to breathe fire on the doors. Everything is falling into place.
It rolls a 15 versus reflex.
All right.
What's your reflex defense on your cheat sheet there?
14.
Getcha. The
Don't I roll?
For this particular session, I provided not only full character sheets for the party, and when I say I use that term loosely because I didn't actually build the characters. One of our designers, Mike Donay, built the characters for the game, and the players basically just chose which classes they wanted to play.
And the door also takes an automatic 7 points of damage, and you see that the ice is beginning to melt.
Only beginning.
But the door has to take a certain amount of damage in order for the ice to be completely gone.
Okay.
As the door takes damage in this encounter, I sort of reduce the DC necessary to force it open. Although I didn't tell the players that, they would have had to figure that out on their own.
Is Jaundice the Mauve's turn.
All right, I'll attempt another Arcana check to continue concentrating.
How do you pronounce that? Mauve? Mauve? I've heard it both ways. I don't usually say Mauve. I don't know why I said Mauve for this
That is your second
session.
success. You need 2 more.
Okay.
Usually I say Mauve.
So I'm really just trying to
That's
concentrate. I don't
a
know.
standard
Dan's
action.
like,
You
oh, I
still
got
have
this
a
under
move
control.
action.
Yeah.
But
Is it time for this?
I think I'll.
If I had been a nicer DM, I might have made, taking control of the ballista a minor action or something like that, so that the wizard could also do something else fun, like blow up a statue or something.
No, it's once every...
But like I said, Dan seemed to be having a good time trying to gain control of the statue. I wasn't going to
All right.
Good advice. In my head, I'm like,
do anything to disrupt his focus.
what I said. He would tell me to do that again. For a 22.
Spectacular. You only need 1 more success now.
Will they get through the doors alive?
I'm feeling good.
Welcome to the DM commentary for segment 7.
All right, and then we jump to Ranrock.
Kevin, would you...
My name is Chris Perkins.
Of course. I'm going for this guy.
You want to go straight?
Yeah, I don't know if I can even get there.
That's on top of.
Can I get up on the drum?
You totally can get up.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Face to
That's
face.
not where you want to be. The next time those hammers come down.
Ranrock can totally get up on the drum.
It's called betting on yourself.
One of the great things about the always say yes philosophy
First of all, I need you to make an
is that
athletics check to
players will seek out new and wacky things to do. Some characters will do some pretty crazy things.
It's a 5.
After 3, you just kind of go, we were here, right? So,
Yeah.
sorry,
Bet on the wrong horse, gang.
So you slip and fall.
What'd you say it was called?
Betting on yourself.
Out of simplicity comes
Use
great
a
humor.
second move action to
The next time you want to make an encounter more fun, this is just a piece of DM
Throw my
advice,
javelin?
you totally
make the floor icy,
I would like to.
but that would
because
require
falling
an action
down
point,
is
because
always funny.
Oh, because I've already.
You traded your standard action, your attack action, for a second move to stand.
Gotcha.
We got it.
Throw it at the door.
Here I am thwarting Zeb's fun, telling me he has to spend an action point to do something cool.
Listen, these guys are queuing up.
You could also throw it at this thing if you wanted to try to damage it, but it's up to you.
I think we'll be using that thing though. Is how I feel.
Okay.
I'm going. No. I'm not going to do anything.
Okay.
What? You're choosing to do no offense on
Well,
anything?
no, I would have to use this. And I did it.
As a DM, when I want to keep things moving, I'll often prompt players or
Your solution was to move
find
through
ways to
so
get
you can
them
fall
to
down and get up again.
either tell me what they're going to do or I'll suggest actions for them just to keep the action going. But in this particular case, watching the wheels turn in Zeb's brain is always just a great deal of fun.
Hit points back.
Yes, you are. Equal.
7 of them.
Why don't
And
you,
then I will get a +2 bonus to all defenses until the end start of
you bust out that piccolo and sing us a jam?
I assume these are songs. I'm doing something.
Yes, you are.
Give us a chart topper.
Oh, it takes the good, it takes the bad, it takes them both 7 hit points, the facts of life. And then,
All right, that is a standard action for you, so you
then
have a
I'm going
move
to
action left.
carefully move 3 squares towards me. Like,
I didn't know there was a bar.
I'm not saying anything because actually I'm entranced by the sound of Doug's voice.
Yes. At this point in time, the mallets come down again.
Good thing I wasn't there.
And 2 of them are disabled, so the sound isn't quite as potent as it used to be.
Thank God.
So, everybody in the room takes 3 thunder damage.
You know what else takes 3 thunder damage? That door.
Well, did that fire? Do we know if that fire did anything to that door?
Yes,
Tom
it
is
did,
focused
because
on
the
that
door
door.
took the 7 points as well,
Okay,
and when
good.
it takes a certain amount of damage, the ice will be melted and you can go through.
Beautiful.
So 3 damage for y'all. It comes off your hit points.
Oh, instantly?
Yeah.
My general DMing style is to keep the action moving as briskly as possible. I was actually talking with Andy Collins, one of my colleagues, about this the other day, and we both share that trait in common as dungeon masters, is we're constantly keeping things moving. We're, not giving the players too much luxury in terms of time to figure out what their characters are doing, because if a player is taking a particularly long time to figure out what they're going to do on their turn, the other players get a little bit bored.
They don't last too long, though, because their players basically hang them.
It feels like you're being gunned for.
Yeah.
Or being helped through. The opposite is everything's so easy.
Here we're talking about crooked dungeon masters and dungeon masters who roll their dice behind the screen. There are some DMs who like to roll their dice out in the open in front of the players. I don't do that, mostly because I prefer to sit on my ass, and it's hard for me to roll on the other side of the screen. But
Screens have come a long way, let me say.
They have.
It's pretty cool.
so I generally roll behind the screen. DM tip number 4, cheating is largely unnecessary.
No, I'm sorry.
It's a known fact that players will always screw themselves without any help from you. And you don't want to ever be put in the situation where you're accused or suspected
It's not open currently. If
or
you wanted to
convicted
try
of
to damage
playing
the door,
favorites.
you could damage it to make it easier to get through.
So
Or
I roll the dice and I take the results as they are. I don't ever fudge dice rolls.
If I do anything,
the difference is, in one case you're making an attack roll to do damage to the door, in the other case...
Although there was one time in a game not too long ago where I think I rolled 3 20s in a row on attack rolls, so the players were getting a little suspicious.
All right. You throw yourself
But I have a
up
very
against the
trustworthy
door.
face.
Dice and door.
So I was able to convince them that the rolls were all legit, that it was the gods who were punishing them.
Is you add 4 to the roll.
Okay. 2. Damn.
Okay, the door defies you.
Damn door. All right. What do we want to do here, gentlemen? Let's act as a team for
You're
once.
actually pretty smart.
The door abides.
You notice that there is a passage, looks like part of the room collapsed here to create a tunnel that leads out.
Screw that door.
Just something I mentioned.
Let's talk about luring the players into more danger. This is something I do all the time. I do it to my own players and my own campaigns. I also do it to the Penny Arcade guys whenever I can, particularly Scott Kurtz. I have been known to deliberately lead players by the nose when I think it might add to the fun. Look, see, there's another way out over here. In this case, I'm trying to lure the characters into an adjacent room where they suspect the spiders dwell. However, yeah, the players didn't fall for it here.
So if I go 3, do I check to see if I fell?
You didn't, actually. You moved 1 to get to the door.
Okay.
And you hit it, so you're done.
Oh,
Unless you want to spend an action point.
No.
Okay. In that case, it is Bluebell's turn.
Now, do we want to escape through that hole? What problem do we as a team want to solve?
In that device.
I don't know that my character would hear you, but I think if we take out the other 2 drums, we don't have to worry about that deafness anymore.
But that thing will still be shooting fire at us.
I've almost got it.
In fact, it'll be
Unless
doing
something
that
sneaks up on me.
momentarily.
Next round, I think I can shut it down.
I have that
Our only problem right now is the drums.
The spider room next door. I talked a little bit about this in an earlier segment.
I only get 1 chance.
But what's waiting for them there is a dead beholder held aloft by thick webs, its rotting carcass serving as a home to a spider swarm.
Ignite the webs and take out whatever's, or piss off whatever's in there.
So, you want me to keep working on that flamethrower? Or do you want me to
couldn't
attack
hurt.
a drum? Because I didn't have a lot of success last time.
I'd take out a drum or work on the flamethrower.
Work on the flamethrower.
All right. So, Thievery 2.
Did you take this out? Did this one get taken out?
Yeah, I took. Yeah.
These 2 are both out.
Okay, right.
Thievery 2.
Let's talk now about the mad whims of fate. Tom doesn't need to know that he's participating in a skill challenge to help the wizard take control of the ballista.
Fried chicken for lunch.
In his case, he's using thievery.
At this point in time, it will blast fire at you again. And
Unfortunately, he isn't much help.
This should have moved around to its butt again.
Only the Goliath and the doors.
It's going to hit the... Well, actually...
I'm under it, working on
your
it.
reflex defense is...
You've seen the podcasts by now, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything when I say that the heroes do succeed at the skill challenge. In a skill challenge, if you accumulate 3 failures before a certain number of successes, the skill challenge fails. And there are different conditions for failure. In this case, had the skill challenge failed, their only recourse would have been to destroy the ballista or run away from it. I did have a vision of the construct chasing them through the dungeon. Happily, it wasn't meant to be.
And
Silver lining.
Jaundice, you're up.
I'm still gonna try to finish controlling this thing for a 26.
Success.
I command thee, stand down.
Can he do it?
Taking control of the...
I am Chris Perkins, your humble DM, and this is segment 8.
You have a move action. Do you want to use that?
Oh, I will. I will
Sachet.
move 1, 2. I'm still stepping carefully. Is it 3 that I make an acrobatics?
3 is where you make the roll.
I'm gonna just step toward the drum.
All right. Then we come to Ranrock.
At this point in time, the ice on the exit doors have melted, and yet
Totally can hop on the drum.
the players are still determined to destroy those statues.
Back up again before it falls back down.
They will not be satisfied until every Dwarven statue is smashed.
The good news
Every
is, if
drum
you fail, you'll just sort of
defeated.
wipe out on top of the drum.
That was that perfect position.
For the hammer to come down and hit
Okay,
you in the
come
nuts.
on. Feet be true.
The good news is you only have to make a fool out of yourself.
All right.
So I can attack from down there?
You can. You're just at a penalty of -2.
On my attack roll or on the damage?
On the attack roll.
That's so ominous. So I can attack him down there? On the ground?
I attack it.
Son of a... 9.
That does not damage the statue. And, that will take us back to Steel Diamond.
Ranrock just can't get any luck.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I am going to see if I have a good attack so I can take out...
Okay, brace yourself, everyone. Steel Diamond is about to have his moment of glory. Up to this point, Doug has been wondering why the hell he chose to play the Bard, and what the hell Steel Diamond is doing in this dungeon.
I'm going to try a shout of triumph.
Okay.
Steel Diamond is probably thinking you should have stuck with that job at the strip club.
I really like to hear that.
So I guess I move first to get in range.
Yep. You're 5 squares away from it.
So if I move 1, 2, it's 3 squares away, which would be range.
Yep.
Let's see.
What does it say?
Under hit? Okay,
Yeah.
attack is charisma versus fortitude.
Yep.
Hit is 1d6 plus charisma modifier, which is for me is a +5.
Okay.
Thunder damage, so
Nice.
in case of its own medicine.
Nice.
And then
The card that Doug is referring to here is his little power cheat card.
So is my to hit roll, my d20 gets that bonus, is what you're saying?
We have this little thing called the D&D character builder that lets you not only build your character sheet, but also print out all of your power cards.
Attack with a plus bonus, it should say.
And Doug, being new to 4th edition and the concept of having these power cards as a game aid, he's still trying to figure it out.
That implement wand?
Let's see. This is what you're doing. There it is. Yeah, where it says implement wand, it does the math for you. +5 attack, plus 1d6 plus 5 damage.
Okay, so +5 attack.
Yep.
That's in addition to my other plus attack?
So, in the course of this podcast, we have seen many characters fall down,
Hit.
many bad rolls, 1s and 2s.
+5.
Characters are always cooler in your head than they are in game,
Well done.
in my
You
opinion.
deactivate it.
That's because
It shudders and cracks
Oh.
as the thunder energy
Success.
rushes over it and just sort of breaks
We're
apart.
saving that last one for you, my friend.
It's got my...
All right.
the reason why they're cooler in your head is because, of course, unkind die rolls can turn even the coolest character into a teetering dolt.
Your turn.
All right.
You're standing in front of the doors, the ice on which have melted away.
Right. So that means maybe I can try.
Britt Stoerden thanks his lucky stars every day he's a novel character, not an RPG character.
When you try it with a minor action, you see
Slipping on banana peels all over Faerun.
just like these
Is that
ones
the
were.
last
Let me ask you
drum?
this. Trying to think.
With every die roll
Is there
comes the
anything to me
fear.
Going over and trying to wipe out that
Is this the roll that will evaporate every shred of my character's credibility?
We end up taking them all out.
All right.
Is this the roll that will forever define me as the party clown?
Acrobatics check after you move 3.
All right, 1, 2,
Yep.
3.
Will Kainuk Sin be able to stay on his feet?
The pencil stopped it, damn it.
Wah, wah.
Range to attack it there.
Considering that Goliaths are mountain folk, and they must be used to climbing over like 6,000 foot tall cliffs and walking across horrific mountainous terrain, Kainuk Sin really cannot hold himself vertical.
Bluebell.
Let's open those doors.
Get away from the mouth.
Make a acrobatics check.
We're the worst organized team ever.
This is a shakedown.
7 plus 9.
Success. You slide over to the doors.
So now I'm just
No
gonna-
more ice on it.
Now it's just a
right?
thievery check to get through the lock, just
There's
like the last
1,000
one.
orcs on the other side of that.
Oh, there's
gonna kill you.
there's a lock.
The players are starting.
Yes, there is.
The players are starting to come to the conclusion now that maybe their initial tactics were flawed.
Because you had to get through the ice first.
Aha. All right. Thievery 2 plus
Because we're stupid.
plus 19.
All right, click. It opens. And with a minor action, you can even open the doors.
Jesus.
When you do, you see a cold hallway, but it's not icy. Beyond, one corner has fallen away. So this is like a drop of about 5 feet, and then there's another drop of about 5 feet into some sort of natural cavern.
I still have 3 moving spaces, right?
Blah, 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 exposition,
You
blah,
take
blah,
standard
blah.
action to open the door, which ends that previous.
I always try to keep my exposition as brief as possible.
Open the door, so you're done.
All right. Well, you're welcome, fellas.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you for inviting new doom.
Okay, Jaundice.
Okay.
Your mother didn't like you. She
Yeah, there is a general philosophy in D&D that you shouldn't really open up a door to another area of the dungeon until you've dealt with the problem in the room that you're in.
In fact, yes.
Because more likely than not, there's something on the other side of that door that's just going to come in and make your life even harder.
It moves on wheels, and it can move and take a standard action just like
Oh,
you
it
guys
can
can.
move on its own.
However, part of the drawback of having the entire map on display is that the players can easily see that there's a hallway beyond that door and not another room, so chances of a monstrous threat are diminished.
I'm gonna. I think we should send it back where we came and basically have it clear out.
As they say in Menzo Berens and C'est la vie.
Because it's basically occupying a 2x2 square. It doesn't move through narrow passages well. It goes through here just fine.
But not there.
But not there.
Also goes
I
forward.
tell him to get thee behind me.
Got it.
Ah, yes. Finally, the reward, the Arcane Ballista.
Doesn't have to worry about
Jaundice has control over it, and the players have a new toy.
it. Okay.
And then my initiative, I'm gonna step 1, 2, and
I'm sure to some of the players it kind of feels like they're cheating, having this ballista following them around, and that's a good thing. DM tip number 5,
that's a close blast.
don't be afraid to give the characters a fun new toy.
I don't have range, so I'd have to keep moving, and my movement is.
You'll always have a way to take it away from them later.
Hey, Dan.
Sorry, where's my movement?
Oh, it's
Before you get too
right
deep
here.
into
Speed.
this.
6.
So,
In my Monday and Wednesday night campaigns, they're very nautical. They got a strong nautical theme, so by the time the characters get to Paragon tier, they have their own ships, and they live in constant fear that I'm going to somehow take their ship away from them, either by sinking it, or by stealing it, or by running it aground in a storm.
move by itself, blasting the shit out of everything.
I use that fear.
All right.
I feed on it.
All right, so I have to move 3
Okay.
if I'm gonna get in close on this
Oh,
thing.
may your
Oh my
success.
gosh! Wow. And
Now you can finish out the rest of your
4,
move. That's close enough, actually. You can hit it
Okay.
from there.
and it's a close burst.
Yeah.
Thunder weave,
Thunder wave.
thunder wave. Sorry.
You can pretty much blast it without hitting your friends.
Okay, so I attempt to blast it. Oh! Natural 1 on the
No.
big dumb red die that I thought was going to be so cool and dramatic.
There is a loud.
Nothing like ending a segment on a roll of a 1.
That all on the statue.
Please come back for episode 9. I promise the game will suck less.
These are lucky.
Welcome to segment 9. I'm Chris Perkins, your
Then
DM.
it's Ranrock's turn.
The hammer hasn't come down yet?
It's coming down right after you go. So.
Now, I know what you're thinking.
I'm not
We
even
have
gonna
been in this
stand.
fucking room for the past 6 segments.
-2 if you're
But I've got a
Please
plus.
tell me there's an end in sight.
So I'm thinking, should I?
You're just feeling good down there.
Will I be able to stand and attack?
Like
Yes.
your moxie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Standing
okay,
is
I'll
a move
stand.
action, so-
Okay, yep. I will stand.
You are on the drum. This could end badly.
Let's make this work.
Oh.
22.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
and then
damage.
1d10
Will
plus
he
5.
succeed?
Let's do
Will he
this.
fail?
Oh, I thought there was 6.
He gets to add a modifier
he gets
to
to
it.
add a modifier.
Okay, got it.
6.
Okay, you hurt it, but you don't destroy it. He's going
the
to play
action
the
point.
action point card.
When you roll to like attack something, a natural 20 automatically hits.
All right.
All right, we have an action point in play
Everything
here.
hangs on this die roll.
Zeb's been hanging on to this for a while
Am I
now.
taking this hammer in between the eyes? Oh, 11? Give me my medicine. I've earned
Dramatic
it.
pause.
Well, he's still got to hit you, so this is against
Nope.
your armor class as the big.
Isn't
stone
that the
hammer
only
comes
movement
down.
he can make?
Yep.
You're perfectly lined up.
Yeah, I'm completely lined up.
He's so happy.
right.
He's like, this never happens.
He rolled a natural 1.
So,
you
I'll talk a little bit about the Encounters program, which sort of inspired this adventure.
Just sort of deflects
The
off.
fundamental nature is that you go to your hobby store and you go there regularly, and every time you go, you play a single encounter, and on subsequent visits, you play encounters that sort of follow in kind of a story. So it's sort of an adventure that unfolds over multiple weeks
Costs 2 squares to enter, but that's not a big deal. You have the movement.
I'm just gonna go in there.
in one encounter
Dwarven
intervals.
corpse hanging in the webs like a puppet.
And a typical encounters season
Might have been a dwarven
might
bard
be
at one point.
10 encounters, or it might be 12, or it might be 20, depending on
You see
what
that
it is.
His armor is all rusty and corroded, but that's really the least of your.
All right, now
worries.
Steel Diamond has been tempted to peer into the spider room and sees...
See a hulking
What does he see?
monstrosity that looks just like that.
Behold.
The Beholder!
It's this big floating orb with all of these eye stalks, and
You can see the fear in Doug's eyes.
hovering there. Its central eye, though, is
He's like, hello, you got my attention now.
and its fangs are all sort of yellow, discolored, and his black tongue is kind of hanging out of its mouth.
It's not in good health.
Can I roll to see if I notice a dead beholder?
Absolutely, that would be a dungeoneering check.
I use the Death Tyrant D&D mini because it looks like a dead beholder,
A giant floating
and I deliberately withheld some information.
flesh.
Yes, the beholder is floating, but that's because it's held aloft by webs. I wanted to keep some of the mystery. Is it alive? Is it dead? They'd have to go further into the cave to find that out for sure. Which is kind of a bastard thing to do, but that's part of the DM's job, is to create a sense of mystery, to get the characters and the players intrigued by what they see, enough that they're willing to put themselves in unnecessary peril.
I'm going back.
Casino.
Casino, I need to
One
see
more
it.
square.
Yep, anywhere you want.
Diagonally towards me.
Got it.
And I'm good. Those must be good spiders. Take out a beholder.
But Steel Diamond's not going to bite.
Then it is
Yeah.
Kainuk Sin's turn.
All right,
Come around and just
then
roast it.
I'm taken down.
Dude, I need you now.
First of all, I gotta stand.
That's a move action.
So I didn't spend much time thinking of a sad beholder backstory about how this beholder came to meet its ultimate demise. The beholder was placed in the dungeon to guard it. That much I knew. At some point it died. I knew that.
Someone's gonna take this guy down.
I never took the time to figure out what his tale of woe was. Not everything in the dungeon needed to be explained, or needs to be explained.
Javelin will, if it hits, it'll do.
Maybe it starved to death, or maybe it was just a picky eater.
And my other option.
Maybe it contracted some foul dungeon contagion.
Your other option is
Maybe it died of old age. Maybe it was killed by Hallister, the mad archmage of Undermountain.
Aim your javelin at the handle of the hammer.
Maybe it died of boredom.
Can you aim your javelin or just?
That's kind
Hopefully,
of what you're doing when you're throwing it.
you're not dying of boredom.
Hit it at the point where it'll do the most damage.
All right. Well,
If you live in a dungeon for centuries, something's bound to get you.
All right, first roll a d20 to see if you hit,
I'm sure my home players will be shocked and horrified to learn that not only did I not create a detailed backstory for the Beholder, but I don't know the names of all of its siblings.
Well done.
But truthfully, I just wanted an excuse to drop a Beholder mini on the board. It always freaks out players no matter what their level.
Drops its hammer and is deactivated.
All right, Kevin enjoys a rare moment of success.
And you've got an Arcane Ballista, which you didn't destroy. Very nicely done.
We didn't even damage that thing, did we?
I don't think so.
No, you didn't do a
One
point
attacked
action.
it.
Lost it. Once we set it free.
I'm sending it up.
That door.
Okay, shall we break here for food?
Sure.
Yeah, quick break.
Hooray!
When we last left off.
Perfect.
I had just opened the doors.
Yes. And you
Whoa, that is the fastest lunch break in the history of gaming.
had taken over the Arcane Ballista. Oh,
Now, truth be told, we didn't actually leave the table. If you stop the film at exactly the right moment, you'll see that each of us inhales an entire pizza in 1
you
nanosecond.
guys are
It's
out
awesome.
of combat right now. The encounter has ended.
Tom
which
taught me how to
means
do that.
In order to get back some of your missing hit points, you can spend what are called healing surges. On your character sheet, located about
Here I explain healing surges in as simple a terms as I can muster for the first
One
time.
says surge value, and one
I didn't
says
bother
surge
explaining at this point that there are some things that characters can do during an encounter to spend healing surges. Really, I just wanted to touch on the idea that once an encounter is finished,
you have to do it
you can
outside.
go to your healing surge pool and spend as much of that as possible to get yourself back up for the next encounter.
That number of hit points.
This is a sort of an unsung hero of 4th edition as well, this healing surge concept, because one of the problems of earlier editions was that a character who would run out of spells or juice, after the first encounter would basically have to persuade the rest of his party members, hey dudes, we have to stop here because I have no juice left. And so
More juice to put yourself back up to the top.
suddenly
11 of these babies.
adventure
And you didn't take a lot of damage.
adventures became defined by, the wizard running out of spells and then crying because he has to go rest. 4th edition with healing surges, and
You don't have to roll.
that sort of helps offset
So
the problem and allows characters to continue to press on
every time you spend a healing surge, you get 6 hit points.
up to a point when they have no more healing surges to spend. That becomes the player's instant signal that it truly, really is time
That place we thought
to
was
withdraw and
spiders,
take an extended
there's also
rest.
some giant floating scary heads and some
The need for an extended rest never actually came up in this adventure. These guys pretty much just plowed all the way in.
It wasn't even responding.
Mind you, they're only actually past the first room,
And there's the
so
Shield of an Orc Slayer.
That's the one you're looking for.
I'm willing to bet that where the spiders are is not.
hopefully the next one will go a little faster.
There was also
That's because it seems all rubbly. And
Doug makes the astute conclusion that the shield of the Orc Slayer isn't with the spiders.
in there to clean house.
I think the map was a bit of a giveaway here.
What kind of machine do you remote control and just go? Or
And now they're discussing what can the Arcane Ballista do for us?
But that's it.
How can we offload some of the
Send it down.
pain?
I mean, I definitely don't think we should split the party.
let us know when you're done. I'll be right here.
And we use it to get rid of some of the dangers of this dungeon.
So you have several options. You can either investigate this area or clear it out, or you can go through the doors and then figure out where to go from there.
I'm up for wherever you guys
think go
We
through
could
the
bring that
doors.
thing with us.
Go
if
through
we
the
wanna keep
doors.
going.
We know what's down there.
Who knows what treasure you might be missing down over here?
These look really hard to penetrate, those doors.
Well, can the missile, whatever the hell it's called, the dragon of wheels,
Yep.
make that turn? Because it seems like one of the squares is cracked away.
You not sure.
What seems cracked away?
The hallway right there.
Oh, yes, we are opening this episode with a token DM ash shot, what I like to call a blue moon.
Senses tell us.
I probably won't say a lot during this segment because, frankly, this segment has a lot of hilarious lines from the players.
I mean, should we just tear through here and try to get some treasure?
The decision point here is, do we scrounge for treasure or do we press on?
Right? 3 to 2.
Unless
Clearly you are not on board very well.
Although I will say, if we can't get that cool flamethrower thing through the hallway, we should go back and use it in the other room. That's my caveat.
All right, I'm with you guys. I'm here to serve the party.
So you want to turn your construct thing around and take it with you, or leave it where it is?
I'll take it with.
Okay.
All right. They choose to press on,
Through the doors to around here, you have a choice. You can either
and they're faced with another choice right away.
where it widens
Do they descend into a rough-hewn cavern,
to this grotto.
or do they follow the masonry passage?
You see that it's cold here. There's some icicles hanging off the roof of the cavern here. This hallway is adorned with dwarven.
When I was describing the two options, I kind of had it in mind not to make any one of those options any more intimidating or threatening than the other, because I wanted to make it as genuine a choice for the players as possible.
Hanging in the marble hallway, you would be down in the grotto.
They're two very different types of options, though. It isn't simply a case of, take the left passage or the right passage. One is clearly very different in feel than the other one.
They're coffers or something?
I didn't get that part.
My hearing
There was a
number is
briefing.
very low.
It makes it a much more interesting decision point than normal, because the players are undoubtedly thinking, okay, if we go down the cavern way, what likely things are we going to encounter down there, versus if we take the, beautiful masonry hallway with the carved processionals on the walls, what we're likely to face down there. They should know that they're screwed in either case, but they're new. Except for Dan and Doug. And Doug, you can look at Doug's face, and he's like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter which way we go, guys. We're going to be screwed either way.
I'll follow you in
You know from the Dwarven face a little bit about this area, and you do know that there was a hall, some sort of regal hall there. That's about all it was able to tell you. As for staircases and stuff, you just don't know.
A regal hall, like maybe a tomb hall?
And if you look on Dan's face, it's very hard to read, but you can tell he's thinking, I don't care which way we go, as long as there are no more fucking drums.
Yes, there's a new piece of paper.
Often, yes.
Places lead places.
Yeah.
Do we get action points back because we healed?
You don't. If you spent them, you don't have them until you go through another encounter. If you still have yours, of course, you can
So
spend
at
it.
the start of another encounter or the start of the second?
Here we talk about action point recovery, and I tell, without using the term milestone, I basically tell them that they get their action points back at the end of every other encounter.
We think or we know that she was buried with its owner.
Trillian told you that it was entombed with its owner.
Well, you know what? Since Bluebell was the one who was MVP for opening the doors, better than anyone else could have done, I say we follow Bluebell's lead.
All right, Bluebell will make the final call, but let's say, show of hands, who wants to go to the ornate
All right, now,
hallway?
this is how a player group should function. Everybody gets a say in which direction the party
Do
goes.
we want to find these shields, or...
I've found that players who try to dominate the game and either consciously or unconsciously prevent other players from contributing to the decision-making process, they're not the most fun.
To go down.
To the grotto.
All right, into the grotto.
As you see on the map, there are these little...
Of course, as soon as they commit to this decision,
5-foot elevations down.
you know very shortly they're going to regret their choice, and somebody's going to have to take the heat for it.
When you get there, you don't see much. The grotto is a little bit icy, but not nearly as treacherous as the room you left. You don't have to make checks or anything like that. And climbing down doesn't seem particularly difficult. Might be a little bit more difficult climbing up.
And Zeb has a moment coming up which is so hilarious I could barely control myself.
I have great athletics.
In fact, I'm pretty sure that one of the puddles under my chair wasn't from the water leaking in from the rain, but was probably from a moment coming up in this segment.
Dark, so you're
As long as
basically
I'm not
relying on your
tumbling.
torches.
All right, well, we got a flamethrower. Should the flamethrower go first and just clear stuff out?
Well, that's the thing about your flamethrower. You're not convinced it can descend too well.
Should we leave it up here watching our back?
Sort of like
It's
pushing
on wheels.
We can leave it on defense behind us. I don't think I can. Can Tensor's floating disc support it? I don't think so. No,
Here's the thing.
too
What
small.
good is it going to do is really leaving it behind? None. How is it going to protect us behind?
If we all push it, we could get it down.
I don't like how you guys are stepping on our wizard's toes when he's the one that spent 5 turns freeing this son of a bitch, and you guys want to literally tumble it down these 5-foot cliffs because there's no point in leaving him behind.
It's my understanding that they're not steps.
Ranrock can take.
It only represents a decline.
They are, in fact, steps.
Far be it for me to tell Tom that he's wrong.
And you guys want to just roll this thing down.
This wasn't meant to be a big deal, really.
Do any of us have any sort of...
Does the party go left or right? They were probably overthinking this a bit.
Shoveling number.
But the DM's job is sometimes to fall silent and let the players interact.
Listen.
I'm not doing manual labor other than getting...
We got along just fine without the flamethrower.
I'm going to use rope to tie off the back and lower it down a step at a time.
You think so. It's time-consuming, but not particularly
So it
arduous.
takes some effort, but we can lower it down.
Let's go down first. If we find we need it, we maybe can
So
come
we'll
back.
leave it up here and I'm like pointing outward.
It's like going into war. You've got an awesome tank. But,
We'll leave it right here.
When we get...
We need to lower it by rope or leave it or go in.
Or do we just want to go in the hallway?
What if the
so we
stealth...
can
When we get to the end of this,
DM tip number 6, don't get in the way of a good player exchange.
guys to remember
Just let the fun happen.
how much landscaping we did just so this flamethrower could follow us into the grotto. And I hope you guys are proud of yourselves.
Do we still want to go to the grotto? Since this came...
So we're basing our entire strategy on this semi-sentient flamethrower. When did he become the most important member of our team?
Listen, it said
Maybe they should elect the Ballista party leader.
a nice tomb in a very marble, nice...
For one thing, don't badmouth that flamethrower. I like that member of the team better than I like you. He's way more useful.
That's what I'm
All
doing.
you
That's
do
the
is,
same
all you do is walk 3 squares and trip and fall.
I ask it of its abilities and where it came from.
Burn things.
And where
I burn things.
previous to me.
Torok Iron Mantle.
All right, now that, Torok Iron Mantle, that is a name I had to come up with on the fly because I was not prepared for Dan's question. So I plucked a name out of the ether that sounded appropriately Dwarven.
He's like the face.
Does he know where Tarok is laid to rest?
He is not laid here. This is
One of the best DM tools I ever created for myself, and I still use to this day, is this gigantic list of names. And I did not actually bring it with me to this session, which was probably poor planning on my part. But I use it for my home games. Basically, I've got this page of Dwarven names, first and last, Dragonborn names, human names, elf names, halfling names, and I separate the first names from the last names so that I can match them up differently. And I keep these long lists handy for my campaigns when they meet incidental NPCs that I hadn't pre-planned on them encountering. Hugely, hugely useful. I should really post that somewhere. Maybe I'll post that up on my community blog on the community.wizards.com site. I think a lot of people would find that very helpful. Also save DMs a pile of time.
Activate it once for fun, just down the hall.
Just to see what we hit.
burn the hall.
Yeah.
Done. You know that its blast area, it can blast out in a 5x5 square in front of it. So
If you put his mouth here, would this funnel it, or would it just still
no,
be
it
5?
would just sort of fill that area.
So, marching order down the grotto.
Yeah.
Who's first?
I'll go first because
I'm the dude.
I'll scope it out.
All right, so the rest of you are kind of camped up at the top while the drow.
Oh, he scopes.
Once again, the party is sending Bluebell into what could be his certain demise.
You can keep going through here. When you get down here, you start to see it becomes a little bit colder, a little bit icier, a few more icicles on the roof. I'd like you to make a perception check to see if you notice anything. That's under your skill list.
I'm not reading anything in the way of flavor text here. I'm just making up the descriptions as I go and doing my level best to keep the descriptions
It
brief.
looks like it was naturally formed, probably through
DM tip number 7, avoid talking too much.
and, has
Say what you need to, then let the players react and ask questions.
Although it does continue on off the map.
I'm sure it's more of the same.
The game isn't about, showing the players how cool my descriptive text is or how detailed my dungeon environments are. It's about them interacting with the environment,
When you get here,
discovering things about the environment, and then lamenting the fact that they're not back in a pub having a strong Dwarven ale.
Swoops past you, actually. And as it goes past, you see it's got great bat-like wings and a long tail that ends with this sort of flat blade.
This is the Bat Cave encounter.
It flies past you and
It's meant to be a
slashes at
fast
you with that
fight.
blade, and the creature looks just like this.
In terms of 4th edition dungeon design, I wouldn't consider it a complete encounter. Essentially, it's just one monster,
22 against your armor class,
and
AC.
complicated by the fact that there's a lot of uneven terrain that the characters have to wrestle with. And the bat has a power that's a flyby attack, which lets it move, attack, and then keep moving.
Yes.
Okay, we got to get down there again.
Other direction right now.
And then after it hits you, it keeps...
Plus, I just thought the Shadowhunter bat was a cool-looking mini, and I was looking for cool-looking minis to put on the table.
Except to you, you can see it. But it is out of your sword range.
It also shows up very clearly on camera. It's got its own very unique profile.
The right side of your character sheet, sort of in the middle. There is a list of your weapons.
Scimitar and longbow.
There you go. You got a longbow.
baby.
Did you find the shield yet?
I must say that we brought in a group of guys, filmmakers, to tape this, and they had 3 cameras. Some of them were mounted, and they were awesome. They're completely invisible here, but they were all around us, and they captured so many cool expressions and moments. I am just blown away.
No, 4. We got to roll off a tie.
Oh.
Directly above our heads is this big white ball,
First, Jaundice.
that is sort of suffusing the entire scene with this soft light.
Well, the bad news is that this thing comes diving down from the ceiling again, slashes at you with its tail, and flies back up to the ceiling over here.
Me?
Yep.
You're the one who stirred this thing.
Me? It's attacking me?
It hits you.
But I'm a drow! 10 points of damage. That hurts.
I begged you to let me go down there.
Then it clings up on the ceiling and sort of nestles itself among the icicles. And it is now Ranrock's turn.
Okay. Putting our petty squabbles aside, I am going to... I want to get my... Or do I need to get my javelin out, or can I just attack with it if I get close?
If you get close enough, you can just attack with it. You can draw it as you move.
Among his many credits, Zeb is also known for writing comics, so
Nothing. Hopping down does not slow you down.
he's got a great sense of comic timing.
4, 5, 6.
Okay. Make
Do
a
I-
perception check to see if
Okay.
you can see it. It hides well.
6.
No, you don't see it at all.
Where'd it go? Where'd who go?
You do have an ability, all of you do, which is called readied actions, which is if you want to.
All right. A new rule introduced here, readied actions.
Okay.
So you can say, when I see
I am personally terrible at keeping track of readied actions and when they go off. I rely heavily on my players to remind me when their readied actions should go off.
I will hurl my javelin.
Awesome. The Goliath goes next.
Here it's not so bad because there aren't a whole lot of readied actions going off here. But in my home game on Monday and Wednesday night, which I run for 2 different groups, each of those groups has 8 players in it. And if 2 or more of them decide to use readied actions at any given time, I'm like, okay guys, you just got to keep track of this for me. If something happens and you have a readied action, just let me know when you're going to take it. Because I am not going to keep that stuff in my head.
You can make a perception check. Your
It
perception
is not the DM's responsibility to be the expert in all the rules or to keep track of everything that the players want or plan to do. The DM needs to rely on the players for some of that information, and I think that's perfectly fine. I've played with DMs who were not rules experts at all, who didn't even have really that great a grasp of the 4th edition rules, but they ran great games, and they trusted that the players around them would sort of fill in the holes.
Is there any place you'd rather be for the rest of
hits the ceiling,
15. We might be in trouble.
comes and falls back to the ground.
Do I have it still?
You have other javelins.
Okay.
You know, in retrospect, why would there even be an ornate hall unless there was something in it?
I was saying it's a tomb. It's like this ornate thing with like...
Yeah, guys, maybe we should have taken the hall.
Steel diamonds, save us.
Tom, it was your idea.
I'm going to remember all the
No,
times.
it's perfect.
blue balls
Absolutely
were
perfect.
screams.
I can't tell you blue balls.
2, 3, 4.
It is a well-known fact that no D&D character name is sacred.
Word.
Given sufficient time and incentive, players can twist any name into something perverted.
Can spend a healing surge and regain additional hit points equal to your charisma modifier, which is +5. You also slide the target 1 square. So good news is you get hit points. Bad news is I'm pushing you down the hall.
Well, with a slide, you could also pull him back if you wanted to.
Oh, I'll pull you towards me.
Yeah. Oh, good. So you get back your healing surge value, which you said was 6, plus bonus 5 hit points.
As sort of a throwaway there, I kind of explained the slide rule. Slide rule. The slide mechanic as opposed to the push or pull mechanics and the subtle difference between them.
I have 2 surges left.
Okay.
But I'm up to 17.
Well done.
In choosing to traverse the cavern instead of the mortared hall,
On the heels of Steel Diamond.
the players avoided an encounter with a pair of frozen undead dwarves.
Once again.
And that's something we're not going to see in this podcast because they ultimately just chose not to go that way.
I believe is a melee
Essentially, there
attack.
were these gates that were blocking the tunnel ahead, and they were controlled by these 2 dwarves encased in ice. And the levers controlling the doors were also encased in ice. And as the characters pass through the doors, they enter a short hallway with another set of doors in front of them. And the dwarves seal them in. And then it becomes a challenge of dealing with the undead dwarves within this confined space that is incredibly cold,
Cast Cloud of Darkness,
painfully cold.
which would blind the creature entirely.
But, alas, it was not meant to be. Instead, they fought the bat.
And we can then
And
launch
that's okay.
attacks into this cloud.
Is blinding a bat-like creature?
As a DM, I don't get upset if the players don't go in the way I would expect them to. I try not to over-prepare so that I'm not wasting a lot of work, but I do like to have a certain amount of preparation done. If they don't, I find this is I think a pretty useful piece of advice. But if you spend time creating something, an encounter, and for whatever reason the players end up avoiding it, don't force them into the encounter. It's probably best to say, okay, I'm just going to hang on to this encounter and try to find a place further down the road in the adventure to throw it back in. In some cases, I make encounters and the characters avoid them, and then levels later, several levels later, the encounter gets finally inserted into the campaign. And it might be I need to change the stat blocks around a bit or make the monsters a little tougher for it to work. But if I take time to make that encounter, damn straight I'm going to use it at some point. This is segment 12 of the DM commentary.
Hit it. It's a you add 4 to your die roll, and it's against its reflex defense.
Okay. So I roll the 20 again?
Yeah.
All of these other dice useless?
Yes, correct.
I've only used this one die the whole game.
The other dice are for
Until
damage
you start
and
hitting
stuff.
with your
Tom discovers the true power of the D20 here.
Well, actually, when he says roll d20, he means roll 20 dice.
I will get to that. 16.
All right, you hit it. So all the things that you want to happen do. It is now easier. It's lit up by dark fire, which means you can see it now. So your ready action can go off.
Oh, sweet.
And it is easier to hit.
Everyone gets that +2.
Yep.
It didn't do any actual damage to it.
Correct. Basically, that ability just enables others to damage it.
All right. Well, you're all welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So,
Blue Bell.
Thank you, Tom.
17.
that hits.
1d6 plus 5. Don't mind if I do.
In this segment, we're really starting to see the players wrestling with
9
tactics
points of damage with a javelin.
of combat a little bit more. Here we have an evasive monster that's making itself hard to hit,
So we're back at the
but
top.
they're countering with powers that neutralize the monster's advantages.
My turn, or was that
Tom's dark fire spell,
Yes.
ranged
Essentially,
attacks.
taken your turn, held your action, and now that action's spent.
You're going to see some weakening effects, things like that.
On the rump. I say, shine on, you crazy diamond. Don't you go changing. And I cast light.
Right here if you need me.
I just might. I cast light on the tip of my staff.
I always envisioned that the Ballista liked Jaundice the Mauve quite a bit, but hated everyone else. That he sort of had this compulsion to like the wizard, this respect for the wizard who had single-handedly mastered it, that he was quite happy to be subservient to the wizard, but if anybody else talked to him, he'd be a total prick.
Run. All the way back out.
Its general disposition was jaded.
You see purple fire.
It was built by dwarves. What do you expect?
Encasing this bat-like creature clinging to the ceiling.
Oh, goodness.
That thing's the problem up there.
Okay. So I did a standard to cast light, I believe, so I think I'm done.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's a minor.
That's a
It
minor,
says.
so you
It's
still
a
have a
minor.
standard action.
As my standard, so I say, oh, that's what we're shooting at?
If I had had more time to sort of add some more qualities to the dungeon, I probably would have done a bit of research into Under Mountain and tried to populate the dungeon with a few more features common to that particular dungeon complex.
Yes, it is.
Sorry, so my bonus?
It should be on the card near the bottom, sort of above the bottom.
Forgotten Realms as a campaign setting is so rich with lore that I'm sure I could have found something cool.
15 to hit.
That's against which defense?
Versus Fortitude.
Okay. That, in fact, does.
Okay, great. So D10 plus 5 damage. So that's 11 damage.
Okay.
And
Jaundice is about to bloody the bat,
that is
which is going to afford me the chance to explain what the term bloodied actually means.
the end of
The monster is at half its hit points or less.
What that means is anything that's weakened deals half damage when it hits. All of its damage is halved. You'll also be pleased to know that the wizard, after unleashing this blast of energy from his staff, also bloodied this creature, which is to say that it has taken slightly more than half of its hit points in damage. All right. And now it comes down.
At this point, the combat really becomes a battle of die rolls and attrition. They're going to whittle down this monster's hit points until finally it drops dead, and then they're going to move on to the next big encounter. And just beyond this cave complex is the tomb that they seek, and there's one more real challenge that they have to overcome before they can start messing with the features of the tomb, which is, of course, the showpiece encounter of this entire ordeal, and makes the trap room seem trivial by comparison. It was meant to, of course.
It swung its blade-like tail at you and missed, bounced off your shield.
Sweet.
And we come to Ranrock. Once again, it's clinging to the ceiling.
It's on the ceiling?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn. I have 2 javelins.
It is totally screwing you guys up because it's not getting within range of your melee attacks.
I will throw my second javelin.
Okay. It is. You still got your +2.
Oh, cool.
It's still glowing.
+2. So that is a 28.
Yes.
Which I assume hits.
Whenever a character uses a power that basically gives other characters a chance to hit a monster, like Darkfire is a good example. I always try to call that out as a DM. Like if a monster is hit by virtue of the fact that a cleric cast the Bless spell, I usually try to call that out because it makes the player who cast that spell feel like they did something important and significant, and it actually came into play.
When you're going up a ledge,
Kainuk Sin is going to discover the challenges of difficult terrain as he climbs up the ledge. He finds his movement hampered.
it is still out of your reach.
I cannot understate the importance of interesting terrain and room features. It's one of the things that 4th edition took to heart, that fights are much more interesting when creatures and characters can be pushed into fire pits, when they can be knocked over ledges, onto greased floors.
And that's against its.
Now, 4th edition also encourages the use of beneficial terrain, which we don't see a lot in this particular adventure. Things like magic circles that enhance combat ability, types of rock that you can stand on to gain benefits or bonuses, that kind of thing.
This thing stutters, sort of flaps its wings a bit, and looks like it's on the verge of.
Particularly in a
but
dungeon
clings by the
adventure,
barest thread.
you can put those things in and kind of build an internal logic to them. Oh, the dwarves built this magic circle
That takes us to
as a summoning circle, and they built this other magic circle next to it as a circle of protection that they could stand in to protect themselves from whatever they summoned. And, you know, the characters walk into this room and they see that one of the circles still has some beneficial properties, and if they, you know, stand in it while fighting a monster, they get benefits. That kind of thing is always great to throw into a dungeon because it forces players to make a tactical choice. Do I stand in the circle or do I do something else or go somewhere else?
This is charisma versus reflex, whatever that is.
Welcoming drum.
The welcome drum, and we're shooting and killing everything. This guy lives in here peacefully for thousands of years.
Our rage is based solely on bad acoustics.
Oh, God, that's so loud!
I love that line. Our rage is based solely on bad acoustics.
Attack roll is a 15.
Nice.
Something for Darkfire?
And you said that's versus reflex?
Yes.
Yeah, that would normally miss, but its reflex is 17 with the +2 for Darkfire. You hit it.
Hooray! And 1d8.
All right, Tom gets to see the benefit of his Darkfire when Steel Diamond hits.
All right, you kill
Without-
it. It falls.
Without Tom's help, Steel Diamond would have missed, and he would have been denied the killing stroke.
Horrific splat.
Just killed this.
So,
It does not look friendly.
Doug feels good, Tom feels good.
Why did you do that?
Daddy?
Yeah,
Daddy, are you okay?
Bluebell's
It
throat
was
coat.
dark. It could have been an accident.
If someone came into your house, would you not strike out and try to get it?
Okay, you totally owned the shadow.
All right, well, I think we've had enough of this map. So, in a moment here,
If it's nothing
we're going to change the scenery.
No. Once you continue on down past the map, I'm just going to clear this off. If you guys could move your figures to the side.
Oh my god, no, no, what's he gonna do?
Dun, 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 dun.
And the flowers are still
57 inches
standing.
by 430.
Welcome to DM Commentary for segment
You guys are
13.
coming down through here instead of there, because you made that.
I am Chris Perkins, your humble DM. All right, the guys have made their way to the ultimate encounter.
Other dudes? Yeah.
They are coming to the entrance of the tomb of the Orc Slayer.
Leading the way. Throwing yourself into the arms of Ranrock.
All right, guys.
And for the record, I do a piss-poor job of explaining the area that they're about to enter.
Down, there's another ledge here, but you see it's slick ice at these points here. And
You've been good about this.
you see that the grotto sort of ends.
Whenever the guys hear the word slick ice, they just start to break out in laughter because they know things are not going to go their way.
And
Basically, the entrance to the tomb has collapsed. The floor has fallen away, forming a fissure with a frozen pool at the bottom. And by passing down through the grotto, they actually come out to a point where they're lower than the floor level of the tomb. So they're almost coming at it from below.
with the Regal Hall that you guys decided not to explore.
Easily
Which is fine.
rolled through.
You also notice from this point of view that this ice down here in the bottom is... there's stuff under it.
Grave.
Only we had an apparatus.
I like the idea of having them look through the ice and actually see that there's like frozen water underneath it and maybe some broken doors and other parts of the tomb that have just sort of collapsed down into this hole.
I'll drop it into that icy cavern.
But that hall's gotta have its challenges.
And even though they're relative noobs for the most part, they're instantly suspicious of the ice, and of course there's the fear of falling through.
One within 10 squares. So is that a square I target and then 10 within it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, before we possibly
Well,
free
it's area burst 1, so it's 1 square and then 1 within it, but you can cast it out to 10 squares away.
Here's where I explain area burst effects to Dan for the first time.
they want to eat us because they're trapped in the ice, why don't we try to see what's in there?
Perception.
I should have picked up on that thing from Doug, Zombie Yeti. That's always...
Yeah.
Zombies are always fun. If I had had some Yeti miniatures, I probably just would have thrown them right there on the board.
Yeah. Same marching water.
I like to listen to players closely when they sort of hypothesize about the dangers that lie ahead or the things that could happen if they don't do the right thing, because often the players will give you great ideas, if not for this encounter, then for some future encounter.
You can see that the ice here is a skin.
When they start to imagine worst possibilities or what monsters might lie beyond, it's like,
You can see
You know?
a pair of gigantic doors.
I might just throw that at them.
Like they were torn off their hinges and fell in here, probably when this area collapsed.
When designing dungeon chambers, it's easy to make the dungeon feel more like a living place by collapsing sections of it. It's a very simple way to create interesting terrain, and it makes the dungeon show its age, which is always... It's sort of a cheap and dirty trick that you can use if you want to make your dungeon feel old and look old, then kind of make things a little collapsed and ragged looking, some broken walls, some piles of debris.
Like little clouds of bluish, almost gas or miasma kind of floating around.
Oh, wow.
But that's all you can really see at this vantage point.
Did we go through some sort of portal in time and space? Because it seems like we went down 20 feet only to line up with a hallway we passed by.
Yeah, you've been going down...
This is the big cliff, though.
Yeah, essentially the hallway stayed level.
This is Doug trying to figure out where he is altitude-wise compared to the room.
Yes,
you gotta climb up.
Yes, you have to climb up now.
Now I get it.
And there is supposedly a portal. I had something about that.
You know that the shields, the 3 shields together, are supposed to be able to unlock a portal. Yeah. But the place is deathly silent.
Dan is the keeper of the backstory here, reminding everybody what the hell they're doing there. Why are we in this tomb again?
Who would like to be the first to venture out onto the ice?
One of the big problems that happens if you run an ongoing campaign is that players don't remember from session to session their motivation. So one of the tricks that I often do at the start of a session is I rip off a trick from episodic TV. You know, previously in Battlestar Galactica, previously in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, previously on Lost. I do these little previously segments that I prepare ahead of time, and I basically recount or recap what happened from previous sessions that I think, details I think are going to be relevant or important to the session at hand.
You hear crack.
Nice.
And then I need...
All right, Ranrock takes the plunge. I had the notion that the ice would break if 3 or more characters were standing on it at the same time. So, really, Ranrock's fat ass didn't have anything to do with it.
What am I rolling? Frostbite?
You can either make an athletics check to hang on to the wall, or you can make an acrobatics check to try to get out of the area.
Do I have that option, or do I have to do an acrobatics?
All 3 of you do.
I'm doing...
So either
I thought about making it a saving throw to try to hold onto the walls and prevent from falling in, but at the time, I guess, I just thought, we'll get them to roll some skill checks. They'll have a better chance of success. And really, I didn't want them to be stalled at this point. I wanted to get them into the tomb. I didn't want them spending the next half hour trying to figure out how to get Ranrock out of the bottom of the fissure.
Because you have to use athletics to climb. So choices.
I'm going to re-roll for athletics then.
You could also apply that same roll to your athletics if you want.
I will then.
Okay.
That's perfect. 8 plus 17.
All right. You're able to climb up?
Yep, I'll just hang out there.
I'm going to try to climb up as well.
Okay.
With my great bonus of 0 no matter what I do. A 13. Lucky number 13.
It is lucky for you.
Yay.
You get up.
Jonas and I are going to go.
You rolled a 10 on athletics? Okay. You get to there, you claw.
So back to the previously bit. Some DMs I know like to have their players keep notes during the session and then have one of the players sort of recount what happened from the session before at the start of the current game. I prefer to take that responsibility myself. That way I can make sure that the characters get the right details. Plus, I can start off the session in a very dramatic way and make sure that the previously doesn't run on too long, that it gives just the essential information, and that sets up what I want to start the campaign or start the session off with.
At this point in time, the ice is basically broken. So the only thing you could do is try to use athletics to cling to like a side of a wall and edge your way around.
Toss me a hand or the hilt of your sword.
I went over and helped him last time.
Or you can reach in and help him pull his metal ass out of
Athletics
there.
are a -1.
I have 0 acrobatics.
The other 2 of you see several interesting things.
Oh, no.
These little things are the clouds. They are these weird, eldritch, magical clouds of bluish gas that seem to glow. And
So here I describe the tomb, and I probably spend more time describing the tomb than I do any other place in the dungeon, but that's okay. It's a big room. It's got lots of features. I love the sarcophagus mini that we made, and also the treasure pile minis that I'm going to put on here momentarily. Most of the minis that we produced were literally people or monsters. Occasionally we did these odd little things, and boy, oh boy, did they look good.
Now, the walls of the room, you see, have basically...
Again, the room is showing its age with fissures in the walls. I deliberately didn't spend much time describing the fissures, but they do play an important role in the encounter.
Bones. Hundreds and hundreds of bones of what look to be dead orcs. Hence...
The Orc Slayer.
We may be, yeah.
We're fine.
Yes.
In describing the room, I tried to touch on the key features that would actually play a role in the encounter. The bones that are set into the walls, the treasure piles, the sarcophagus, the magic circle, and the fissures. And the clouds of gas. Now, the clouds of gas was my first attempt to insert beneficial terrain into the adventure, and you'll see how that plays out next session. I'm Chris Perkins.
But, this Tensor's floating disc I keep reading about, is that just to carry miscellaneous small items? I can't carry the weight.
So we're really about to begin what is the centerpiece encounter of the adventure. A very large room designed to allow for plenty of movement so the characters didn't have to be clustered together.
You guys have a rope?
Yep.
He has it.
You all have
Basic
adventuring stuff.
adventuring gear, I assume I got. Yeah, it's adventurer's kit.
So one of the features of the room are these floating clouds of eldritch gas, these sort of cold gas clouds. And this was my first attempt to insert beneficial terrain into the game. The dungeon has this pervasive cold theme, and for the most part, up to this point, the cold has been detrimental. Slick floors, things like that. But here, I wanted to give some love back to the player characters by making these luminescent clouds of cold mist that actually enhanced their attacks.
Make a loop.
So, yeah, because I've got...
This is what, when you spend a healing surge, it's called using your second wind. You have a second wind card. And
Right, here I explain second wind for the first time.
otherwise, the only other way you can get healing surges back is if you have a cleric who heals you or grants you the ability to use a healing surge, or you have a generous bard who has
I also do a little bit of retconning here coming up
So if you spend your second wind,
in letting the players start spending healing surges for getting hit points back from the bat attack that they recovered from a few segments ago.
but it's probably
I've
worthwhile.
got to use it. I've got
Okay.
6 hit points left.
That ray of enfeeblement I used against the bat was an encounter power, so...
As a DM, if I forget to mention something from a previous encounter or at the end of a previous encounter, like, for instance, oh, spend your healing surges to get your hit points back from fighting the bat, I have no problem bringing that up later in the game, as long as it doesn't break the flow too seriously.
Ow.
And if you took any damage from the bat and you want to spend healing surges, you can do that now. I think you were the only one who got slashed by
But
the
you
bat.
can only
You've
use
only
one
got-
at a time?
Outside of combat, you can use as many as you like.
I'm gonna drop a healing surge on myself.
You know how in movies
One
when
more.
Put it-
guys
Outside of an encounter, I mean.
Okay, so am I in...
You're in an encounter.
Okay.
Yeah.
next?
Well, we counted for that a little bit.
There's 2 of us.
With the rope, you have no trouble.
Pretty big.
You have no trouble pulling the Warforged out with the aid of his own strength.
Okay, now there's an interesting little conundrum here. The heroes are now effectively split into 2 smaller groups. You got Bluebell and Steel Diamond together, and then the others are all still have to figure out a way across the broken ice. This is always risky, and as a naughty DM, I am more than happy to let 1 or 2 characters wander off on their own to see what trouble they can get into.
You can certainly inspect the area a little bit more closely if you want to.
I'll do a little...
Anybody who's listened to the Penny Arcade podcasts, Series 3, knows that it's never a good idea to split the party. Will Wheaton learned that lesson the hard way when his character wandered off on his own and fell into an acid pit.
The sarcophagus has some arcane runes worked into it, as well as several locks on it. You think getting it open is a bit of a...
locks, you said?
Locks, yeah. Getting it open is a bit of a skill challenge for those of you who have arcana or thievery. There's
DM
always
tip
some
number,
magic pulsing through the
oh, I don't know,
surface.
125.
Probably a defensive thing.
Don't pile on the detail at the outset. Save some details to share with the players later. For instance, the details concerning the sarcophagus, that it has all these locks on it and all this stuff, that wasn't something I talked about when I first described the room, because it wasn't that important at the time. It only became important when Bluebell decided to focus on it.
Your Arcana check is really... He's gone.
Leave the friends. Take the money.
You think that there's... If somebody tries to cross this or interfere with it, it could trigger some effect, a magical effect.
I'm going to keep that to myself.
You do know with an Arcana check, though, that there are ways to disable this arcane circle. Using Arcana, if you look at the runes etched in there, there's a whole bunch of Dwarven glyphs.
Here I am, describing the magic circle in detail, and the runes, and how it might be possible to disable some of the runes with magic or with thievery, or by using history to recognize which runes are... Yeah, whatever. Pfft. All Doug cares about is the gold.
I'm first going to walk over to that pot of gold.
All right.
See what I mean?
Yeah, you see within the
Blah, blah, magic circle, blah, blah, sarcophagus. Just tell me about the gold.
made to obviously the guy who's entombed here.
Now, I put the gold here as a blatant lure.
Make an offering.
'Cause
You sort of stir the gold around and nothing adverse happens. I was going to say your Arcana check also reveals that these cold little miasma clouds, they're actually kind of helpful. They're sort of an after effect of some magic that was cast here.
Here I am parting the curtain a little bit by revealing to Steel Diamond that the clouds of cold are non-threatening.
Cold damage.
Hey guys, if you stand in the blue stuff, it helps with this channeling.
So that you share.
Yes.
Hey, did you learn anything here?
So Steel Diamond is more than happy to share information about the clouds, but he doesn't tell the party members about the treasure. How many players do you now do that?
And neither of you two have to make perception checks to hear.
The rogue finds like 4 gems on a corpse, and he tells his friends that he found 2. Yeah, we all know those type of players.
It sounds like rapidly flapping wings or something.
Wow.
Wings.
He said somebody has a baseball card in their spokes.
Now,
I love that's where your head went.
this is going to be a disaster unless the rest of our team...
The sound of the wings was foreshadowing, sort of a warning to them that there's something else in the room that they can't see but that they can hear.
And the claw looks fairly rigid.
They didn't actually pursue that, however.
Should I tie off a rope
Again, they're
up
focused on the treasure.
here to help you guys?
Oh, but here, while Steel Diamond is busy eyeing the treasure, Bluebell actually has the good sense to try to reunite with the party.
You probably have things like pitons or something you could hammer.
And I wasn't going to belabor the issue of getting Kainuk Sin and Renrock safely across the pool.
Make a zip line.
The fact that Bluebell took the trouble to secure a line was good enough.
Sort of floating bits of ice now.
How to bring again?
Oh, that's...
Somebody had too many donuts.
All I could think of at this time was, I want to get the characters back together, I want to get them to the main encounter and not lose any of the tension that I'm trying to build up.
Me, yeah.
You're the lightest, too.
So anyway,
All right, Jaundice, you're coming
that's
up.
one problem solved. I don't know what you guys are going to do.
I'm going to...
I don't know if I adjudicated the Tensor's disc power correctly or not. I was too lazy to ask Dan to show me the card to remind me how the power works.
Bring up,
I jump on that
Kinukuk?
disc, travel, and then
Kinukuk,
Coily
what's
goes
her name?
"Wah," over the side
I
of
gotta look it up.
the pyramid.
Okay, so you've fastened a rope on your
Are you
side.
sure you're not just reading your character class? Did you name your own guy? Kainuk-sin?
Kainuk Sin.
I'm going to bring Kainuk Sin up.
All right.
I was gonna say.
So just a little bit of what's the sort of physics behind this?
So once the line was secured, I didn't make them roll any checks or anything to cross the rope. I just assumed that they were able to do it. Get across the fissure, and I'll get up into the room.
What's happening?
I've tied a rope around you.
Oh, Lordy.
You've tied it around your waist. Then I'm going to pull.
Look how much heavier I am. He's going to pull you into the water.
You'll basically be trolling him through 3 squares of water to get to the edge of the cliff, and then you'll be pulling him up.
Okay.
Oh, wait, that water has a cold effect. What if I threw a rope down?
I know that some of the players of the game here have taken a bit of heat on YouTube for not quite playing their characters optimally. But it's worth mentioning again that most of these guys are completely new to the D&D experience. They, have only looked at their character for about 30 seconds before we started to play, and they're still trying to figure out how all their powers and interact and how they work and everything. They're also working with pre-gens that were created by a member of my staff, so they didn't choose the powers that they have. They were sort of handed these powers and said, have fun, make sense out of it. And they do a commendable job, all things considered, and they sort of discover things as they go.
You may not have mentioned it, but I also think if somebody were to cross through that room...
So Bluebell doesn't make much use out of some of his ranger abilities that he has.
Anyway,
for example,
Kainuk Sin is coming up.
Ranrock isn't the most optimal barbarian, but hey, the important thing is everyone's having fun.
Good job.
You're welcome, you're welcome.
I'm Chris Perkins, your DM.
Nice. Yeah, these are adding up.
You're the only one harmed, so they get over it quickly, I'm sure. All right. Now you
The Tomb of the Orc Slayer is a good example of a complex showpiece encounter. And surprisingly straightforward. There are several elements. There's the sarcophagus in the middle of the magic circle, the claw-shaped treasure urns that flank it, the cold clouds that float around the room. But there's no immediate danger, which gives the characters time to inspect everything, to scope things out, to look at the bones that are embedded in the walls, maybe to go over the fissure to see what might be making that flapping noise they heard. In actual fact, there are 3 threats.
So you can scratch them out, you can fill them in, you can do other things to them, but probably don't cross them just yet. That being said, I'm going to take some of the gold.
Okay. When you scoop out the gold,
there's the magic circle.
you hear a cracking. You hear this sort of weird crackling.
The fissure-like cracks.
And it's then that you realize that the bones in the walls are dislodging
the bones
themselves.
in the walls.
Put the gold back.
Too late.
Monterey Jack saw some cheese, and now we're all...
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody can roll initiative.
I like the fact that as soon as I say, when you scoop out the gold,
Well played.
and suddenly all the other players know that they're in deep shit.
It said, don't pull.
Somebody's got to be
The orc skeletons were perfect for this encounter. The characters are in the Tomb of the Orc Slayer, who is a Dwarven hero. It's not beyond the realm of reason that the tomb builders would adorn the tomb with bones of the Orc Slayer's victims,
13.
fallen enemies, and turn them into guardians. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have a bunch of orc skeletons dislodge themselves from the walls to defend the tomb of the dwarf champion who killed them?
This is what we came here for.
And the orc skeleton mini just looks phenomenally cool. And I had a whole pile of them.
Probably really weak.
What if they're just like valets who want...
Ask if they're friendly before
valets.
people smashing everybody to pieces.
Let us help you carry that gold, adventurer.
We have come to liberate
Pardon me, adventurers. Would you like some Grey Poupon?
taken down by the Orc Slayer.
We do all have diplomacy.
The 11 orc skeletons
That'd be a
rip
bluff.
themselves out of the walls, assemble kind of in... They sort of fall out in heaps and then kind of assemble where they stand.
And this is the first encounter featuring minions, which are a unique kind of monster that...
It's a bluff on my initiative.
Minions are monsters with glass jaws. They go down with one hit. But boy are they fun, because you can put bunches of them on the battle map.
Attack him on my way to attack this guy.
Yeah.
Which is what that does.
Minions sort of capture the cinematic feel that you want in a D&D session, with characters just sort of mowing them down.
Get
In
a
there?
+2 to my...
Right.
And in short order, I'm actually going to explain to the players what a minion is. When I put the orc skeletons out on the board, I didn't call them minions right away, because I wanted the reveal that they're minions to come in-game.
Okay, I'm just going to turn...
Oftentimes, generally speaking, it's preferable for a DM not to, or for a DM to be as transparent as possible about what the characters are facing. But there are times when it's dramatically interesting to keep some things
I don't even know if I mark them. Yeah,
a secret, at least for now.
I think that's
It never hurts to mark the guy. That way, if
right.
anybody else...
Because I can use that as many times
Yeah.
as I want. Okay, yeah. So I'll mark this guy.
Okay.
I'm going to swing my.
I'll talk a little bit more about
with nary a word.
what it means to be transparent as a DM in a few minutes.
Hi, fellas. Welcome to the...
17.
17. Let me get my shit together here. All right.
Here you get to see
17
me
is a hit. When you hit him, he explodes.
looking at the monster manual.
I will tell you now.
I believe I was using the statistics for the decrepit skeleton in the monster manual.
And minions are one-hit guys. They go down as soon as you hit them at all. These do seem to be minions.
So any hit will.
Any hit which does damage will take one down.
In other words, free gold.
I'm going to yell to Jaundice that maybe he should work on the runes. But that's just a suggestion. While
I'm going to yell a suggestion.
us bigger boys tear through these minions.
Far be it for Zeb to tell Dan what to do.
All right.
I'm just making a suggestion verbally.
Don't worry, Jaundice. I've got this all under control. You do the circle thing. I'll take care of all the skeletons.
Next we have Jaundice, as it happens.
Okay.
I admire Renrock's confidence.
So reminding everyone that...
And Zeb's, given his roles have been sketchy at best.
I step lively toward the rune. 3 spaces there. And
All right, it looks like Jaundice might forego battle once again in favor of dinking with the magic circle.
to take a look at it and use, whatever knowledge I can of how I might either discern exactly what this does or avoid triggering it.
Okay. You think that, first make an Arcana check, just to suss out the situation. Not a hard one.
Okay, it's 14.
We're about to, or I am about to reveal to the players that the magic circle is part of a skill challenge.
Sort of among the many ruins on here that sort of tell you what it is, and then there are other ruins.
I had always envisioned that in order to get to the sarcophagus, they would have to disable the magic circle around it in some fashion, and that would be handled as a skill challenge, either as one that they could do during combat, or one that they could basically wait to do after combat was over.
It's also a defensive circle. You think that this entire area could spring up with some kind of magical energy protecting the sarcophagus if somebody tries to get too close to it.
Okay, so there's an offensive summon and a defensive shield of sorts.
The circle had two functions. One was to create a magical barrier around the sarcophagus that would damage you if you crossed it, and then also if you crossed it without first disabling it, it would summon a monster nearby to attack, and we'll see that later in the game.
Part of a skill challenge.
Oh, I may have just given away the fact that they did not succeed at the skill challenge.
Skill successes.
Okay.
But if you get 3 failures, then it's game over, man.
So pretend you didn't hear that.
Okay.
It means that you might set it off accidentally.
Okay, understood.
Just so you know...
This is the first time I actually get to explain the rules of skill challenges to the players,
Prayer to my deity, Kazith.
You are not the only one who can participate.
and they get it instantly.
You also think that somebody with a good history check could also ascertain which ruins are the
Students
correct
of
ones.
history and arcana, join me in my task.
Thievery could also be used to disfigure a ruin.
-1.
If you have thievery, you can try to disfigure some of them.
As I mentioned before, skill challenges, the best skill challenges can be solved by multiple means.
You're essentially, that's it. You have to either disable or magically deactivate.
Here you can use history, thievery, or arcana, and as a general rule as a DM, I always leave it open for players to propose other uses for other skills as well,
5, but then no one is protecting your flank.
provided it's not too ludicrous. Doing somersaults around the edge of the magic circle and making an astonishing acrobatics check will not help you at all in this skill challenge. And I'm kind of sad that one of them didn't propose it. Okay, segment 16, I'm Chris Perkins. DM tip number 527, be transparent. I was quick to tell Dan what the likely consequences of failing to disable the magic circle were.
Fairly challenging circle. You certainly. Yeah, exactly.
And I also tell him how many successes are needed to succeed at the skill challenge.
You described it as really complex.
Yeah, it is.
Likewise, I tell the players when they're fighting minions and when they're not.
6 to succeed.
The reason I do this is because I like them to be aware of exactly what they're trying to achieve.
Well, let's start taking down these minions.
All right.
If I didn't tell them how many successes they needed to complete the skill challenge, I'd lose some of the dramatic tension because they wouldn't know how far they had to go to succeed.
Okay. This might be an interesting ability for you. It's called Recuperating Strike.
Okay.
Basically, it says you make an attack. If the attack hits, you deal damage, and you gain temporary hit points equal to...
And DM tip number Y. I have totally lost track of the DM tips and my numbering system for them, so don't sweat it. Another good DM tip is don't show all your cards. I deliberately kept some of the monsters hidden. I wanted the players to think that the orc skeletons were the only direct threat. But I dropped a hint in the previous segment, which was the flapping wings, that there was some other danger present as well. And if one of the players had asked where the sound was coming from, I probably would have had them make a perception check to discern that the flapping wing sound was coming from the fissures on the far side of the room.
Spilling out through the vents in the walls are a bunch of creatures that look like this. They have 4 sets of wings and a long pointed proboscis. Graboids. That's an awesome movie.
Right?
No, they're not graboids. Sturges are iconic D&D monsters. They've been around since first edition, and I wanted to make sure that we had some iconic monsters for them to fight in this adventure. Now, the encounter could have unfolded in a couple different ways. The players could have completely ignored the magic circle, waited till the end of the combat. The circle isn't going anywhere and isn't hurting anyone right now. So they could leave it alone for the time being and just focus on the monsters. As you're going to find out, the circle does distract them a bit.
And the minions haven't attacked one single time.
And I had no idea going in whether or not they would fight the monsters and then solve the skill challenge of the magic circle, or if they would end up doing what they did in the trap room, and that is having one or more characters farting around with the circle, while the rest of the characters are holding off the monsters. This is where Steel Diamond learns how much Sturges suck. And boy, do they suck a lot of blood out of him.
These would lash out at anything in front of them.
One of them rolls a 16 versus your armor class.
Versus my armor class, which is a 17. Take
that. Misses. The second one rolls a 19, which will hit. It will do... It attaches you, does 1 point of damage. But now it is latched onto you.
That's not appropriate.
And it sticks its big proboscis through your flesh.
It's latched onto you, it follows you to the...
Proboscis sounds cooler than stick his nose through your flesh.
And that's it for them.
So if I move, it comes with me? It's not in that square?
Yes, correct. It is
which
now...
Which one was it?
This one. He's your buddy.
Dude, my birth was foretold in a prophecy.
So was mine.
Wow. Look at that. Then, immediately after that, these guys charge.
Wow, look at that map. Look at all the figures on that map. I might have gone a little bit crazy, but that's okay. It was the big encounter. I made the room really big because I wanted to fill it with monsters. I tend to go a little crazy with minions, using more of them than I probably should. But they're like popcorn. And players always feel great about killing them. There were 11 orc skeletons and a whole flock of Sturges. I can't remember exactly how many Sturges there were. There may have been like 8.
They rush up. Oh my gosh, Bard's in a bad way.
Oh, this is my plan.
It's all
brilliant.
coming together.
Absolutely brilliant.
This is probably a good time to talk about my miniature's coffin.
1 is going to hit, 2 is going to hit, and 1's going to miss.
Under my desk in my office, I have a storage unit, which basically looks like a big blue trunk made of plastic. But it's pretty much the size of a coffin. It's about 5 feet long, about 2.5 feet deep, and about, 2.5 feet, 3 feet tall.
A second one misses.
There's no compartments inside it, nothing. It is just a coffin. And it is full of pre-painted plastic miniatures that I have acquired and I have tried on numerous occasions to organize them into smaller little kits. And I do have a few smaller containers containing minis that I use all the time, like goblins and hobgoblins and humans and archers and things like that, skeletons. But for the most part, my miniatures collection is just this huge plastic wad inside this big giant coffin-shaped container. And every time I need to go find something specific, I have to drag this thing out and dive into it. Fish around. Sometimes I have to dump half of it, pour through it all, and then put everything back. It is the simplest and most ridiculous miniature storage solution I could have possibly come up with.
3, 4, 5.
I'm good.
Okay.
So you're using... All right.
And one of these days I should just take a camcorder or something and just video it because it's obscene.
And it's +7 on each attack, and you do a D8 plus 4.
Speaking of promises, I still have to put up that list that I promised from an earlier segment of character names, so that if you ever need an NPC name for a dwarf or a tiefling or a dragonborn or a halfling or an elf or whatever, you can just look at the list. I will do that.
15 is not going to hit that skeleton, but you get a second attack on this guy.
All right. 6.
+7 is 13, and that's not going to hit him either.
This is the first real combat of the adventure. Up to this point, they negotiated with the Arcane Ballista, and they overcame some traps, and they fought the Shadow Hunter Bat, which was just this single monster. But this is the first real chance for them to sort of spread out across the room and wail on things with their weapons.
I know you
have lured all of them into my trap.
Okay.
I'm going to enact a burning spray, which hits each creature within 3 squares of me.
Okay. Just before you do that, it sucks some blood out of you.
Yeah, that's fine.
To the tune of 4 points of damage.
Okay. Would that sucker be included with the damage?
Here we get to see monsters that deal damage at the start of characters' turns, which is kind of a new concept for new to 4th edition anyway.
Yeah, okay. If I can still do that.
Absolutely.
I got 2 of these.
Yeah, we'll jump back.
That there are monsters in the game now that essentially act on characters'
It's
turns.
only going to help. I want to do action points. So then do I re-roll?
And it's a really subtle thing, but actually it does amazing things for kind of the flow of the game, that monsters don't just act on their turns anymore. It makes the combats feel a little bit more organic, I think.
I don't have any multiple enemy attacks anymore. So let's do Shield of Blades.
So Shield of Blades is all about... Well, this is a single creature, but it lets you attack it, and then if you hit it, you get a bonus to your defenses, +2 to your AC.
It's a veritable shield of blades.
Yes. So you become harder to hit after you attack.
Great.
It's +7 on your D20 roll to try to hit it.
Okay. And I'll be going for the guy closest to the rune.
Got it?
10.
+7 is 17?
17.
That hits him, and he explodes.
Boom.
His bones go scattered all over the place. Nothing seems to happen when his bones cross the circle.
The guys take care of business. In segment 17 of the DM commentary, I'm Chris Perkins. This is a big encounter, so the characters have pretty much quit their buffoonery and are dead set on destroying all monsters in their path. You can see they got a lot more concentration at this point.
3 by 3 squares.
They're watching the board a lot more, watching each other a lot less, figuring out where their characters can go, what their characters can do, keeping an eye on how the battle plays out, where the monsters go, whether Steel Diamond's going to get every last drop of blood sucked out of his body.
So on the corner of a 3 by 3
Yeah.
square?
Yeah, exactly. Or along the face of a 3 by 3 square. If you
Doug learns the difference between a burst and a blast here.
Or you could hit
That a burst sort of expands out from you in all directions, whereas a blast is directional. It starts in an adjacent square and kind of fans out. He also learns the idea that you only roll your damage once when making a blast attack, regardless of the number of creatures you catch in the blast.
Great.
Individual attack rolls, but 1 damage roll for all of them.
Yeah.
I think I'll be okay.
You could also angle it here and try to take out him.
No, I'll do the first option.
Okay.
Don't be a hero.
So let's start with the guy on you.
Okay. So this is a +5 to whatever this roll is?
That's correct.
A 12 plus 5 is 17.
Okay, that hits the Sturge. Roll damage against him.
So damage is 1d8. Where'd my d8 go? Oh, that's 5. 10.
Okay. He is bloodied.
Oh, that's it? Just blood?
Yep.
All right.
I decided not to make the Sturge minions. I was sort of waffling back and forth when I was creating the encounter,
As well.
just to create some variety.
13.
Damage is the same for all of them.
Oh, so what
so
do
you
I
only
roll?
have to roll that one. 10.
Minions generally play nice with all kinds of standard monsters, but it's good to show the players here that not every monster goes down with one hit.
Yeah, the Sturge. These guys are not minions.
19. Cool, thanks.
That hits, so he takes 10.
And 22.
Hit again. So you hit all of the Sturges. They're all bloodied.
Well, I am going to do an action point to do a second attack.
Okay.
Because I want these things dead.
Yep.
This is a shout of triumph.
Excellent.
Plus, if the Sturges were minions, I could imagine Doug, having Steel Diamond just stop, drop, and roll, and just sort of roll across the floor, crushing Sturges under his body.
First the guy on you.
First the guy on me. This is a
I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't do that.
23.
Hits.
And my damage, it was a 1d6.
Steel Diamond spends an action point, and we can see here that Doug has really picked up on the 4th edition rules.
This guy.
Raid!
Sorry? 13? No. This guy.
23.
His bones explode all over.
Okay. That guy, 28. And the last guy, 27.
Well done. All right, so there's nothing attached to your face. That's nice.
Nice.
And we jump back to the top with Ranrock.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, what have you been doing, Ranrock?
Ranrock is drying out.
You're not leaving, are you, Ren?
I pulled you up.
Very cold.
Have you done anything since I
Yeah, just drying out. Okay.
He's
Chris, what's the
drying
difference
out.
between a cleave and a passing attack?
Okay, so a cleave, which is what you're at will, you attack, and then every enemy, if you hit...
So here, Ranrock has to choose between cleave and passing attack.
Other than the guy you just hit takes damage, auto damage.
One of the benefits of having so many minions on the board, and just sort of cluttering up the whole room with monsters, is that it gives characters the option of using bursts and blasts and cleave effects to good effect. You want characters to have opportunities to take on multiple monsters at the same time.
We'll do the cleave then. So I'm going to move.
I think all in all, this encounter does a good job of giving every character something cool to do.
And cleave at this. Cleave
The
at this guy.
melee combatants have a lot of fodder that they can hack to pieces.
Let's do this.
The wizard has the magic circle.
Hits, he explodes, and this guy takes auto damage and explodes.
Sweet.
Well done. All right, Ranrock's in the game. Jaundice.
So you might be the first attack opportunity.
Yeah, I think we were just saying I might suffer the first attack of opportunity in this game because I'm going to try to go around this guy. 1, 2 to here.
All right, he will take a swipe at you. He rolled a 19 versus AC.
Okay, that does hit.
4 points of damage.
Okay, and does that stop my movement or can I continue?
Nope, you can keep going.
Okay.
Where are you going?
Out of here. I'm going to call the police.
Going around him.
You leaving?
Passing through the cloud, actually.
Okay, no effect.
To here.
Attacks of opportunity, or opportunity attacks as they're actually called in the 4th edition
Yeah,
rules.
nice tickle. I'm gonna do
They're
some
a level of complexity to the
right
game,
there.
but I find, or it's been my experience, that players really pick up on it quickly.
My positioning
That
was wrong.
the easiest way to generally circumvent an opportunity attack is to shift away from your enemy. And if you don't, you're going to get
You're basically lobbing it out.
Oh,
you're going to get threatened.
10 squares away, and then it detonates, exploding in that square.
So while it is more complex
So you didn't have to.
frustrating to be the person asking.
than many of the rules in the system, I find that the learning curve is pretty shallow.
And I will attempt to lob it. This is where I
You
want
still
to
probably
hit
want
it.
to shift away from him just so he doesn't take the attack of opportunity, but you can do that as a move. That's not a big
Okay.
deal.
And I make a ranged attack to here,
Great.
or is there a line of sight issue?
Nope, you got it.
Okay, that's
So
where I wanted to
it
go
explodes
off.
here, it's going to affect all 3 of these guys.
Okay.
Does Toro still have the free 5-footer?
So do you do a
Jaundice has decided not to focus on the magic circle here and actually get into the damage dealing game, which is a cool choice for him to make.
Okay, cool. So against this first guy...
Dan has clearly realized that the magic circle isn't going to jump out and grab him anytime soon.
It won't make any difference because they're minions.
Oh, I see. But I have to do another attack.
Yeah, separate attack rolls.
13, it's a +5, so 18.
Get him.
And the
You are
last guy-
clearing these guys.
These guys are just mowing down the skeletal minions, but then that's why they're there.
All right, Kai, Nuke
They pretty much take 10 out of the 11 out in short order.
What about this great cleave?
I think the next time the skeletons actually get their turn, I might only have 1 left out of 11. I was actually very impressed during this session at their effectiveness.
You make 1 attack roll.
Part of me is a bit sad that the Clouds of Cold didn't get used more early on, but they do figure into the encounter later when things go horribly awry with the magic circle.
Let's see how we do.
First against this clown.
Take him out.
Come on,
Yes,
Kevin.
we're gonna get him.
Nice.
Okay.
Smash.
It's got to feel good.
See, look how happy players are when they kill minions. Why wouldn't you want to use minions?
Clear through the minions.
Just the image of this Goliath bringing his big giant sword around and cutting 2 orc skeletons in half. That's a fantastic image.
Well, let's see.
Look at that Goliath, man. Look at the size of his sword, man. I think he's compensating for something.
There, but I was waiting for something.
Sure. Always.
Or
Little known fact of Goliath anatomy, I suppose.
try and can I do this? 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't have that move anymore, but if I'm closer to these guys, am I in jeopardy of getting attacked by
They
them?
will almost certainly attack the nearest warm-blooded thing that they see.
Yeah.
But maybe that's not a bad thing because you have more hit points than anybody else.
Yeah.
You probably don't want 5 of them attached to you.
No.
Yeah, I don't think the Goliath's going to go running into the pack of Sturges, no matter how tough he is.
I was planning on
Kai Nuksin is not the bravest Goliath on the block.
blind them and keep them away from me.
I'll stay away from them then.
Yeah.
Until they flew out.
I love that the players are talking about tactics here. That they're sort of trying to work together and figure out who's going to go where, who's going to do what, who's going to draw the attention of which monsters. And all Doug's thinking about is,
Well, you know what? Maybe I just need to
I want that gold.
If their blood's
Get these damn Sturges off me so I can get the gold.
I don't have any blood. Oh, I plan on running in there.
You have vital bodily fluids, but not blood per se.
Mud.
Mud. Mud blood.
You're a mud blood.
All right. So you are joined by the massive Goliath.
Do Warforged have blood? That is a good question.
Yep.
jaundice.
They have the equivalent of blood. Sturges find them equally tasty. Segment 18, I'm Chris Perkins.
Skeleton will attack the bard since he's already there, and a 12 is not
So
going to
watch
do
my
it.
back while I try to...
Look at that, they've all but obliterated the skeletons.
I love that it's raining outside, by the way.
Yeah,
That makes
I
this
know.
all the better. Indoors playing games.
Like we do deserve to be
He'll
here.
come over.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be giving up your game room?
Yes, the rain justifies our cave-dwelling game playing.
3 of them will attack the bard.
But probably.
Miss. Hit. Hit. Uh-oh. The bard takes a total of 4 points of damage and has 2 of them stuck to him.
Not too bad, but not pleasurable. Wink, wink.
So the whole point of this encounter was to introduce the guys to their characters' abilities a little bit more, to throw them in a combat situation with numerous antagonists so that they would have plenty of opportunities to use powers of different types.
That's a miss. A second attack on blue bell.
They actually stayed together pretty well. I mean, they didn't actually spread out and use as much of the room as was available.
Oh, there you go. Then we
Part of that may have been that the orc skeletons acted soon enough that they could kind of walk out into the middle of the room to confront the characters, so all of the fight was pretty much centered around them. If the initiative had played out a little differently, it's possible they may have been more spread out. I don't know.
any attack that you do, whether it's
It would be fun to run this encounter again with another group to see how well they do by comparison.
at them. If you took a step back, you would not be in range to use your swords.
If I cast Cloud of Darkness, that doesn't actually do any damage to them. I'm sort of wasting a turn.
The other day, in order to open up some map space for my ongoing campaign, I had to very sadly and regretfully erase these battle maps on which I had done these fantastic Orc Slayer tomb maps.
I think that's my only multiple.
I was thinking about keeping them as a memento, but I needed the map space for my own campaign.
They're all only one creatures.
guy.
Okay.
Teacher, can I go to the bathroom?
Absolutely.
Should I take this off, or are you guys going to record it?
You can just turn off the switch on the...
I like to hear it. Leave it.
And here Doug goes to the bathroom, with the mic off, we hope.
What did you step in?
I don't know what's going on.
When we were doing this, we all had these microphone units attached to us, and then microphone wires strung under our shirts and fastened in very surreptitious locations so that you couldn't see them on camera.
These people are up here drinking all the
I'll
time.
do hit and run, I guess.
That's an interesting one. Okay, this is actually cool because it says, first you make your attack, blah, blah, blah. If you move in the same turn as this attack, leaving the first square adjacent to a target does not provoke an opportunity, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Oh, interesting. I'm going to tell you something about the Ranger that's kind of cool. A Ranger has an ability called Quarry.
At this point in time, I tell Tom about an ability that he has as a ranger that he hasn't been using called Hunter's Quarry.
Point to a creature and say, you are my quarry.
This is an iconic ranger ability, and since this is really the first main combat encounter, if he hadn't discovered it on his character sheet by this time, I almost certainly would have pointed it out and do.
Like attack one of these guys and then like move away from it without provoking an attack from that guy.
I can't remember whether I remembered he had it back in the Shadowhunter Bat and just chose not to tell him, or if it didn't actually occur to me until now that, hey, Bluebell's a ranger, he should be using his Hunter's Quarry.
If you hit him, not only do you regular damage, but you get to roll an extra d6 damage on top of it.
I'm going to hit the guy closest to the rune,
Okay.
giving those guys a
Perfect.
little cover to work on the rune,
All right.
on the decoding or whatever it is they're
Yep.
doing.
As I mentioned in the previous segment, I wanted to make sure this adventure included at least a couple iconic D&D monsters. The Dead Beholder was one, although of course it doesn't do anything except
Because if you hit, you get a
stink.
bonus to your armor class.
And the Sturges were the other. And the Sturges are nice because they have a really simple, cool shtick. They grab onto you and they suck out your blood.
So, roll.
I made them individually weaker than the versions that appear in the monster manual, reducing their hit points and damage slightly.
Plus 7 is 7.
Mostly because I wanted a lot of them on the board, and it would have been grossly unfair to put 8 Sturges on the board and expect these guys to actually take them out without losing a character.
D8 looks like a diamond kind of deal. That's a D10.
And contrary to the popular opinion of my players, I am not out to kill the characters.
And add, what's that, 4?
So a 3 and a 3.
And 4 is 10.
Although having said that, I may be the only DM in history who has, in a 4th edition game, scored a double TPK in one session.
These guys are hardy.
Your turn.
Good day's work. Ranrock?
All right, Steel.
I wonder, I have 2 bloodsuckers on me. I must be
Oh, that's
freaking
right.
out.
Thank you.
What
you
if I
take some
stumble
damage.
backwards into the runes in horror of what's going on?
Nothing but fun, I assure you.
I wish Steel Diamond had stumbled back into the ruins.
You take 3 points of
That
damage.
would have been hilarious.
So first, I'm going to do a minor action, which I believe wouldn't get in the way.
I would have ruled, by the way, that if he had actually done that, if Steel Diamond had gone screaming into the magic circle to see what would happen, there was a damage-dealing effect on anyone who enters the circle.
Which is plus 5. Does that mean I get a healing
Basically,
surge
they take fire
and a
damage.
different modifier, or just get the
I would have made the Sturges on him take fire damage too, so that would have been actually kind of cool. Taking damage for yourself to damage the creatures attached to you.
So I am having a good time with that, and then
Anytime a player wants to have his character do something that
do I swing a sword? You can.
on the surface seems kind of retarded, but actually has some tactical value to it, I'm totally for it, and I will give them whatever advantage I can to make them do these rotten things to themselves.
Just shift away. You don't.
Alas, Steel Diamond did not throw himself into the magic circle.
I guess these 2 guys go with me.
This guy and this guy.
Okay,
They're
and then I'm
your
going
buddies.
to stab myself in the throat, I guess. Which is just a +3. I wonder if I do something special, because that might not be enough. Those are ranged. Yeah, just in case that's not enough, I'm going to do a War Song Strike, which is an at-will power. It's a melee attack against one creature.
Okay.
It's a +8 attack with my longsword with 1d8 +5 damage.
Great.
War song.
Here, Steel Diamond is going to regale us with his war song.
The Navy. You can sail this out.
Worst war song ever.
So in case someone swings at my throat, this is accidentally.
We didn't design 4th edition to make power cards necessary,
1d8
but they sure are handy.
+5.
Before 4E released, many of the R&D staffers used cards to keep track of their various at-will encounter and daily powers. And the powers themselves were actually written to fit on cards. However, no previous edition of the game had a card component, and we didn't want 4th edition to have a mandatory card component either. Also, we didn't want to add to a false perception that D&D was turning into a card game. But it turns out, cards are an easy way to track powers. And now that all classes have powers, it makes even more sense to include them as an optional way for players to keep track of what their characters can do and how often. In games that I run, there's always a mixture of characters who use, or players who use cards and players who don't. In games that I play, I actually have one game where I use cards and one game where I don't. So I don't know what the logic of that is.
Okay, so it's +8 against each
It seems some characters I play are fairly simple and straightforward and don't really need them. And maybe I know the powers so well I don't need to reference the cards.
hit.
But others, like my Goliath Barbarian, I don't know the powers quite so well because I haven't played Barbarian before. And the power cards are very helpful.
Come on.
Ooh, 10.
The at-will powers of the game represent what I believe one of the major improvements over previous editions. I always hated in previous editions playing a wizard, running out of spells, and then resorting to having to use my dagger or my crossbow, which is not the sort of iconic image you associate with wizards. I would have much rather had a spell that I could just cast an infinite number of times in combat.
On this, you see the bard flailing around with two guys.
Classic Ranrock, and his horse never comes in.
When I study
Poor
him
Ranrock.
physically, does he appear to be bloodied in any way?
There's some dried blood.
Yeah, he's not at half of his hit points yet, so...
This episode is fittingly titled When Sturges Attach, which is a great pun. You know, that could be the subtitle of the adventure now that I think about it.
This all happened because he went for the gold.
I nudged Goliath, and I'm like, you know, keep
One of the things I enjoy most about adventure design is coming up with adventure titles. Ironically, though, this adventure didn't really have one.
30.
Wow.
Although,
Yes.
now that I think about it, Tomb of the Orc Slayer
Feeling good
has
about
a
myself. I would
classic
spend an action
first edition
point
feel to it.
to do it again.
This room.
Another possible title is The Beatdown of Steel Diamond.
Success.
3 successes.
All
Right,
right,
you're
Who
halfway
is
there.
Splendid.
going to have his work cut out for him in this fight.
Where are we next? Oh, Kai.
Oh, quick question. Do I have to be adjacent?
Yes.
I do. Okay, so I'll stay.
This is actually the second time I have recorded this particular commentary. I already did it once, and then we had a software malfunction, and it was lost.
You know what would have been handy down here is that flamethrower.
So,
That's so true. Yeah, as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, like, can we just start talking?
yes, they have a flaming ballista, but are they using it here? No.
2.
Oh, actually, you're doing greatsword damage, so it's higher. You should be rolling a d10.
2.
When I'm,
2 plus...
I have two campaigns that or one campaign that I run on 2 different nights with 2 different groups, Monday night and Wednesday night.
All right, and then
And
just something you want to keep in mind is you have being
I
a
always,
barbarian ability
when I
called
post the
blood
summaries of the
rage.
adventures, I always make sure the
Yes.
adventures have an appropriate, if not clever,
So
name.
it's your
that's true,
big
yeah.
thing. But if you hit, you deal whopping damage. You roll 3d10.
Rage.
3 10-sided dice. And then you deal half damage on a miss, and you enter a rage. For the rest of the encounter, you gain a bonus on your melee damage rolls equal to your con, so plus 4 damage for the rest of the encounter. Just something to keep in mind for the future. But anyway.
Should I have done that instead?
Nope.
With the remaining...
Nope.
Okay, gotcha.
Kevin's like, I have no idea what you just said.
No, it's still up.
3d10 what?
Is it
And
bloody?
then-
Is it all bloody and gross?
Yes, and it's going to try to attach to your face. Oh, rolled a natural 20. So that is a critical hit. Natural 20s always
Oh, dear.
hit, and when they do maximum damage.
Hang on, I've got something here.
Let's see.
You got some Sturge repellent?
Stone's Endurance, which it's a minor action that's activated on your turn.
Kevin is desperately looking for something to counter the Sturge attaching onto his face. Unfortunately,
All right,
the barbarian doesn't have a whole lot of immediate
what it
and free
means is
actions to
you're
call
gonna take
upon.
4 damage, and it will attach to your face.
Like this is.
And then
towards the
this one is going to try to. Actually, this guy will shift to here. This guy will shift to here, and they'll both attack the ranger because he's much juicier than the Warforged. Ranger, you're going to be hit once and missed once. So the one that hits you attaches to you and does 4 damage.
Okay.
The 2 on the bard will just suck on him
Yeah.
for a total of 8 damage.
8. It's never been that big before.
I know.
So to speak.
This guy's going to swoop over and join him and miss.
Doug is looking a little worried now.
All right. And the orc
How's that circle going?
will leap forth and try to thrust the bard with his rusty sword.
Oh, I'm gonna get an infection.
22 versus AC is a hit. Does 4 points of damage.
Oh, look at all this blood.
Never had a D&D character die of an infection before. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun. Doesn't sound like the type of game I want to play every day.
You've got 1 attached on you.
Get it off.
Can I do Shield of Blades again?
Speaking of which,
Let's do that.
I am currently
So
in
that means that
4
you hit it,
D&D games. 2 as a
7 for the
DM
attack
and
roll.
2 as a
Hit,
player.
roll a D8 plus 4,
And you know,
and
still
you
not
get
enough
bonus
D&D
to
for my
your
liking.
Here's my 8, so I roll the 8 one first.
You
or the 20
you always start with a D20 to see if you hit.
9.
Plus
7.
16 is a hit.
Okay.
Damage.
Is 2
Plus
4.
4 is 6. That's all you needed for him.
Okay.
You'd already taken some damage. So you smash it down in the ground and step on it.
There's a good sound
You still have a
effect.
move action. If you do more than shift one
As a
square,
DM, one of the things I do a lot is
it's close to you.
put in all of these weird sound effects when appropriate. I have no idea why. You know, if somebody points their wand at something, I can hear the sound of the wand in my brain, and I just have to get it out. Explosions.
Because I've got all sorts
If something explodes in the game, I actually have to make the sound of the explosion.
I got 3
retarded.
tries left, or well, not 3 tries left, but I've got 3 more steps in my skill check here, and then God knows what's in there. But I'm only disabling the summoning effect. This thing still has a shield on it, possibly.
What about the locks?
You know what would be really handy right now? A flaming ballista.
Get to work on the locks.
Boy, I wish we had one of those.
Yeah, you'll have to tear down this thing's defenses before you can get to the locks.
So yeah, so I got a whole other shield to go after this. I'm like the guy in Die Hard burning through all the the layers.
I guess I'll take a step.
Did Dan just make that hand gesture? You're going to have to go back and replay that. He made a dirty hand gesture.
All right.
That guy will attack. That
No, he shifted.
Or maybe I just have a dirty mind.
That's. And you're doing you're
I'm not going to use my action. He said
All right. Well, Tom debated spending an action point.
then steel diamond.
Should he wait until the sarcophagus is opened or spend it now? In games I play, I tend not to hoard my action points. I spend them early and freely, usually in the first round or two. Get them out of the way, use them up when the monsters are at their prime. Tom decides not to use it here.
How does dying work compared to 3-5?
Okay, if you drop to 0 hit
And
points,
here I explain the dying rules to Doug.
and
You can see the tiny beads of sweat on his brow.
On your turn, when your turn comes around, you make what's called a death save.
Steel Diamond has not one, not two, but 3 Sturges attached to him in this encounter.
10, you start dying, and if you have 3 strikes, basically. Okay. If you roll under 10 3 times, you die. If you roll a natural 20 while you're unconscious, you have a sudden burst of life and kick back with some hit points.
It could be fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to do a war song strike against the thing I struck the last time, so I hope I've hit it a few times.
Yep.
And this is a +8. Yep. In the Navy again. 12.
Not enough, sadly.
All right. I am then going to start screaming and running.
Get him off, get him off, get him off.
The 2 that are attached don't attack you. They're just feeding off of you. The 3rd one does, or tries, and it will actually hit you. And now attached to you. It does 1. It does 1 point of damage.
Okay, I'm still running.
Yeah.
What about this guy?
Him too.
At which point we say, hey guys, that gold's free now.
He is going to hit you as well for another 4.
That's it. And I'm like,
Oh, and Steel Diamond goes down.
Yeah, you're right in that square there.
Gold can't buy hit points, my friend.
And that's my new SIG. Of the DM commentary, I'm Chris Perkins, your DM.
Shake my head.
just keep working
Jonas, don't get distracted. Keep working.
Now, at the end, it's now
Steel Diamond, the bard, has just gone down with 3 Sturges attached to him.
Before I pass out, I say, I've learned nothing. 5.
That's strike 1. Now, while
How
he
do we
is...
revive him?
While he is
Oh,
in
Steel
this state,
Diamond fails his first death save.
Somebody can come up to him.
Strike 1 of 3.
Heal check. That's one of your skills. If you roll well enough on your heal check, then you can let him spend a healing surge.
I'm just saying, gold split.
This encounter is all about death and dying.
Easier than splitting
That will be
in
the
5.
theme of this particular commentary segment.
DC, you have to roll a 10 or higher.
In typical D&D fashion, the other 4 party members are already doing the math and realizing that they get more treasure if Steel Diamond dies.
Still there?
Yeah, it's still there. But
You know, all right. Keep it in the back of your heads.
Ranrock.
Yes. I'm going to try to take out this little guy.
Okay,
Come on. 16.
that's a hit.
Son of a bitch. 6.
Okay, he is still there.
I will use...
Notice that the table got a bit quieter.
Action point.
Everybody's feeling kind of somber now because their poor bard is lying face down on the floor.
When you roll a 20 in crit, you automatically deal maximum damage.
So 15.
There you go. You crush him.
Now, do I still have my movement?
You do.
So I will...
There's me making my squishing sound again.
1, 2,
He's going
3,
in.
4...
One more. 5.
To watch.
Put you adjacent.
He's already down, Ranrock.
As I go by Bluebell, I'm going to give him another wink, just to unsettle him.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Well
I think Ranrock and Bluebell need a room.
Obviously not a minor action.
no, it's a standard.
Okay.
Then we jump down to Jaundice the Mauve.
All right.
You've racked up 3 successes, my friend.
Do they have to be sequential, by the way?
Gonna go for
All right, well, his bard friend is lying face down, getting bled to death by Sturges. What does Jaundice decide to do?
It could be important.
I'm gonna roll a 4th.
Come on.
Ooh, 12.
No, Zach.
He's going to keep working on that skill challenge.
Number 1.
So that's my first strike.
Oh, Jaundice fails his first check as part of the skill challenge to disable the magic circle.
I mean, I could move, but I couldn't do
Now things are starting to look grim.
Stay here.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Steel Diamond gets no love at all.
All right. It's me, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to take that guy in front of me, but...
Forget the bard. We need that shield.
Bloodhunt Rage doesn't seem like it's... Well, we only have an hour left. I'm trying to think.
And poor Kevin, he's playing the barbarian, which means really his job is to go up and smash shit. So he's figuring out what can he do for the bard, what can he do for the magic circle.
That's good if you're charging the Howard
Right.
Strike.
All right, so why don't I just take care of the guy in
Okay.
front of me and see if I can get him with my great
Oh,
sword.
this guy's attached to you, isn't he?
Oh, he is, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
stab,
he sucks 2 hit points out of you.
it's too long to stab myself in the face.
You totally can do it.
Saw him.
But you took 2 hit points as he sucked your blood.
Gotcha.
You saw a little blood go up his little stinger there.
One of the things I like about 4th edition, about the way monsters work in encounters, is that they don't just act on their own turns. Many monsters have abilities that let them act on the characters' turns, which goes a long way to making the battles feel a little bit more organic.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean,
It doesn't just go, player turn, monster turn, player turn, monster
You still
turn.
have a move action if you
I
want.
do. What are we all hanging out around steel balls for?
Who are we gonna
Steel nuts?
Can we help with the runes in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually going to check on that ice, see if it's frozen over.
Somebody get those doors out of that ice!
I'm going to go look for that heat lizard guy.
Those doors are suffocating.
There are all kinds of skill checks you could theoretically use on the rune. Whether you're confident enough to do it is up to you.
Beg your pardon. Well, let's do a skill check. Let's see.
You don't have a lot of thievery.
I don't have
You have
anything.
negative arcana, so I don't recommend that.
So maybe I can't do that.
Your history is +1. That helps to figure out which ruins are sort of historical ones that dwarves use for these kinds of traps and whatnot. But
Doesn't seem like a lot of anything.
you could try stepping on it.
I don't think I'm gonna step on it.
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah, you could try stepping on it. That would be cool.
Do I do anything?
Doug. Put it in there.
I am, at times,
Start leading our
a bastard.
here. Is it a waste to let it go? I just don't know what else I could do other than...
I'm not above offering suggestions to my players that will get their characters into even more trouble.
Could you undo all of Dan's hard work?
That's what I'm getting at. Am I going to cause more damage
You
by doing like...
could probably undo all of his work by stepping in it.
Yeah, I'm not going to step in it. But what about the history one? Is that going to hurt me at all if it goes wrong?
If it fails, no. It will not hurt you.
Let's do that then. Again,
All history will do is if you succeed, it'll give Dan a bit of a bonus on his next check.
Here I go.
4.
No bonus for you.
Sorry.
I seem to remember something from my history.
The Goliath's history skills fail him.
Where are we again? Okay. Next.
Guy Newson doesn't remember his birthday, let alone any other bit of history.
Okay.
I do... Hey!
Another little bit of information that will be helpful to you is that if you get to your negative bloodied value, that is, if your bloodied value is half your hit points, if you ever drop to the negative of that, you're also killed outright.
Okay.
I only say that because they are continuing.
The Sturges continue to feast on the unconscious Steel Diamond, which allows me to amp up the tension by explaining what will happen if Steel Diamond's hit points drop to their negative bloodied value.
That shouldn't happen again. Take my meaning.
This guy is actually going to
Hint,
sashay over
hint.
to here and wail on the Warforged.
Bring it.
Because he thinks he's stupid. He's a skeleton. He thinks the bard's already dead. The Warforged, he does 22 versus AC.
20.
So you take 4 points of damage.
I'm actually not doing
As he
too good.
clatters along. And then we drop to...
I think the death and dying system of 4th edition is very elegant and intuitive.
Arcana,
The
Thievery...
3 strikes idea adds a lot of tension to the game.
2 thievery. So I probably won't be
Not only for the player whose character is down, but for the other players who have, only X number of rounds to jump in and try to save him.
All right.
villains.
I like that the math is fairly easy and straightforward. That when you are healed, your healing starts with you at 0 hit points. Or rather, it assumes that you're at 0 hit points, so that you always gain the maximum effects of your heal.
Attack it from there.
Let's attack it from the cloud.
I like that various other characters can jump in and try different things to get a character who's dying back on their feet.
It just depends. Do you want to do the
And
Sturge or
also
you want to do the
intercede
Orc?
yourself between the wizard and the
Yeah,
bloodstone.
I'd start working on those tougher
Particular
ones.
wizard is
All right. 3
Let's do-
sturgeons attached to the bard.
Shield of Blades.
Excellent.
We tinkered with a lot of variant death and dying rules in the development of 4th edition,
Person to your
and this was the, of course, ultimate evolution of all of our playtests and discussions and observations about how death and dying had worked in previous editions, or in some cases not.
That Shield of Blades. 19.
And I remember we got some criticism early on in 4th edition that the rules It was very tough to kill a character using these rules, but I'm here to tell you that is not true. I have killed more than my share of characters who either died of the 3 strikes rule or died because their hit points eventually dropped down to their negative bloodied value.
However, now it is your turn.
And don't they feed me again on my turn?
At the start of your turn, they do.
Well, this is going to be...
There are only 2 left.
One less guy on you.
You take a total of 3 points of
Steel Diamond has been resuscitated, but the Sturges are still attached to him because his friends have not yet removed them.
You see that 20?
12. You're stable. Nothing adverse happens. Anybody who wants to, who's adjacent to him, can attempt a heal check to try to revive him.
Is that more? Is that? Do you think it's more worth our time to get the things off of him, or to try to revive him?
It's touch and go right now. He's still got 2 on him. He'd probably feel better if you tried to heal him, if you have any heal.
If I'm revived, do I go back to 0 or 1 hit points or something?
What happens when you're revived is that you basically get to spend a healing surge. Regardless of what your negative is, when you're healed, you always assume that you were at 0 and go up from there. So you'd have 7.
When last we saw the party, Steel Diamond was lying face down on the floor with Sturges attached to his body.
The health check.
Okay. It's a heal.
Heal. I have a 1.
Ranrock will reach past the suckling Sturges and attempt to heal his friend.
Congratulations.
All right.
So you have 7.
And thanks to Ranrock, Steel Diamond is going to be back in the game.
Back up.
His
or
eye,
is he-
well, he's still prone on the ground with these things attached to him.
But
But he's got
he's
his eyes. But he's in the positive, and his eyes are open
Just awake enough to...
to feel the blood being sucked out of his body.
Does that take away one of my surges? You said.
Nope. He spent the surge, but it did use your standard action, so you can't attack this round. You could move if you wanted to.
Can I mark an enemy?
You'd only one that you're attacking, so no.
So no.
Okay. So Ranrock saves Steel's life.
Ramrock beats paper.
Jaundice.
All right. Well, I'm very predictable.
You are 3 successes with 1 failure.
I will continue my arcanic.
Forget the bard, he'll be fine. Focus on the circle. There we go.
19.
Oh.
See, it's getting harder.
I made the Arcana DC for this skill challenge a hard DC.
I get a +1.
Deliberately.
For really wanting it.
Oh, right.
And that's a little brutal, a DC 20 check for a first level character to make consistently. But I sort of assumed that characters not skilled in Arcana could use other skills to aid Jaundice. Very much like Kainuk Sin tried to use history to give Jaundice a bonus on his next roll, although that didn't work out so well.
Do you have any of those?
There are many ways to effectively reduce the effective DC, so I didn't feel like a big meanie.
But if I move over here...
And again, this was the big encounter of the adventure, so I was thinking when I was building it, okay, these dwarves have put this shield in this sarcophagus
He's in his square.
and set up all of these magical wards around it to protect it. Why would they cut corners and do a bad defensive mechanism? They'd want the best, or as good as they could possibly create. And so the high DC sort of represented that story-wise.
You can go through the cloud, but as you do...
Plus, I knew the consequences for failing the skill challenge were not going to prevent the characters from eventually getting the shield. It would just make their job a lot harder.
You totally can hit with your javelin.
So the high DCs seemed fair.
Could do that.
Well, the skeleton could just lean down and stab me in the head. So.
Okay, now, finally,
All right, you are in the cloud.
the clouds come into play.
As you swing, as you prepare
These
to swing your
cold
sword,
clouds of
you see
mist
it
floating about the
blaze
room.
with sort of this cold
And Kainuk
ice.
Sin channels the
Which is
power
good,
of cold
because
through his weapon attack
It does more damage, basically.
to try to destroy the last skeletal minion.
Power rushes through you.
8 plus... What do we do, a javelin? Plus 4.
Oh, no, you're doing your sword on him, because you're next to him.
Oh, all right, sorry.
So plus 7.
Right, okay.
So 15
Got it.
is exactly what you needed.
And he
All right,
destroys
because
the
he's a
last
minion,
skeletal
he
minion.
explodes, and you guys see sort of waves of cold energy erupt off of his shattered, bony body.
Now, I will admit that I kind of ripped myself off with the cold clouds idea. Last year, I was spending a good deal of my personal time updating the Against the Giants series to 4th edition, and I've pretty much completed that work at this point. But one of the things I added to the Glacial Rift of the Frost Giant Jarl, the second adventure, in that series were these cold mist clouds that in that adventure were described as kind of lingering remnants of the Prince of Elemental Cold, Cryonax, which many of you old school buffs will remember from your original first edition Fiend
Do you
Folio.
want me to heal you, or do you want me to kill one of these things?
That was a little tactical element I added to the Glacial Rift to make some of the encounters a little bit more dynamic and interesting.
I'm going to try to kill one of these enemies.
Build a statue in my honor.
So, I'll do Shield of Blades.
Okay. He could be your quarry too, so if you hit him, you deal extra damage.
Okay.
Shields of
17.
Hits.
And,
So it's a D8 plus 4 plus another D6. Good luck.
9 plus 4 plus 6.
Or no, you have to roll the D6. In addition.
9.
I have every intention of, at some point, making the Against the Giants updates available in some manner or some fashion.
And Steel, you start your turn with 1 attached to you.
Okay. I'm sure I'll be fine.
Just 2 points of damage.
I'm unconscious.
Steel Diamond is drained unconscious again.
What's going on? Oh,
Hey, where are we? Oh, yeah.
still learn nothing.
Oh. You get to make another death save.
I failed my death save.
Okay, that's 2 strikes.
And he fails a death save again.
It doesn't matter. It's per encounter. So
Okay, so 2. I'm fine, not really.
Doug learns that the strikes are cumulative within the encounter and is thinking to himself, this adventure really sucks.
Should I get the one off first? Probably, right?
Might as well.
I will swing my warhammer.
Nobody's checked out this cloud.
I was careful when I created the cold clouds on the map to make sure there was at least one for every character to stand in. Make sure every character had his or own prism cloud.
Wow. So we've got no other excuses then.
you have no enemies to fight. All that you have confronting you is the Circle of Power. And of course,
Ranrock dispatches the last Sturge. So one could theoretically end the encounter here. However, there's still a skill challenge going on, and so
for the time being, so we come
I'm
to
keeping everybody in initiative.
All right, so this could be good or bad.
Come on, this is it. This is it. Feel it.
All righty.
If you triggered something summoned,
It'll summon on top of you.
wouldn't it be great if I wasn't unconscious at the time?
I agree. I'll defer until after. I'll defer so someone can heal him.
would you like to do anything else? Go play with some gold or,
Please don't.
Here's me.
Here I am trying to provoke the player again into doing something he doesn't want to do.
He's on his feet so that I can finish.
All right.
I don't want to take my concentration off this thing.
Okay. Kai. Nixon.
Jeez, there's so little to do.
Yeah, you killed everything.
Should I try another history to help?
Check the corpse.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
I'll help Dan again with another history.
All right, Kevin does the smart thing by trying to help the wizard. Skill challenge was designed for this.
Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
But his history check ain't all that.
Nothing comes from the Goliath.
Stop talking to me. I'm trying to concentrate.
Kevin's not rolling particularly well in this encounter, all in all.
I want to try to heal Steel Diamond.
Well done.
So I have a heal of 0, and I have to get over a 10?
Yeah.
50-50 chance.
Maybe I'm not the best person to
Okay, there's a little bit of a rules fudge coming up here.
13.
Deliberate one on my part.
Another, whatever it's called, healing surge?
Sure.
And it happens when Tom, aka Bluebell, heals Steel Diamond. Because Steel Diamond has already spent his second win for this encounter. He spent it when Ranrock brought him back.
Considered the encounter. Can I use a
So Tom's heal shouldn't have worked in the way it did.
Point in
But
time, since
frankly,
there's no imminent jeopardy and you can basically hold off on your
the skill challenge was still going on, and there was a good chance that the characters would not succeed at it. And I didn't want Doug to be sitting on his hands for the rest of the session.
Healing surges as I want.
Yeah, you guys can essentially camp out.
I was more interested in keeping Steel Diamond with his 2 death saves in the game. One more death save, and that's it.
I mean, I've got
So you're
27.
Out of 33, though. So if you did spend one of these 12, this number would go down to 11, and you'd get.
So I call that a forgivable fudge.
We all
Yes,
You
you're
went to
right.
your sheet. Wherever
Okay,
this
so
is.
you're actually at 11 now.
Right.
So if you spent one more, 10, you'd get 8 hit points back.
Okay.
And that would put you up to full.
And that's the most we can do is 33.
Yeah.
You realize I will put a javelin.
Just out of curiosity, is anybody out of healing surges?
I have 2 left.
All right.
I just used my last one.
Okay. We had 3 successes and 2 failures. The pressure is on.
All right.
Come on, Dan.
Yes.
And you can use your heal. You can use your what do you call it? History to help them.
Okay.
First,
So make a history. Anybody can make a history check if they
make history checks because if we're going off this roll, I need your help. Otherwise, I'm 1 shy because I rolled a 19.
You help, so that's plus
I
2.
got a 10 history.
20.
So it's,
You help, that's plus 4.
That's over 20.
I just got a 8.
No, so you get plus 4.
So it was 23.
That's a success.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Your
That was
DM.
really useful info.
Can I do an Arcana check to see if I touch the other gold or the same thing happened?
Sure, go ahead.
No.
He's knocked back to his feet for 6 seconds before he's already doing something else dumb.
Nothing will happen because you've already dispatched the skeleton.
Doug is a type of player that I like to call an instigator.
Well, then there's no reason not for me to take that gold.
You quickly gather it up with no repercussions.
All right, you're welcome, guys.
And there always seems to be one in the group.
So glad we brought him back.
The heroes have misgivings about bringing Steel Diamond back from the brink of death.
Yeah. That's what bards do, right?
Anyone else remember anything cool from history class?
Let me see.
Nope.
18.
19.
Yes. No. So you get plus 4 to your roll.
1923 again.
Success.
All right.
No pressure, but you
The skill challenge
one success or one failure.
is super dramatic. 1 success or 1 failure away.
Will they do it?
21 actually with the history.
Success.
15.
Success. You get a plus 6.
Oh, 13. 19. No. It's 19. Just under. 19.
I love this shit.
Get the rest of the gold.
Red. No blue.
All right.
Oh, no.
Oh no. Skill challenge. Wah, wah.
Column of fire.
I zigged when I should have zagged.
A column of fire basically fills that area, just sort of going right up to the ceiling. So now there's like a fire shield around this thing. And this appears.
Nice.
Let's all get in some cold, huh?
You can see that in the midst of this rolling ball of fire is the vague semblance of a face.
The magic circle, in addition, basically has 2 effects. One is the column of fire that surrounds the sarcophagus, deterring characters from entering it.
Everybody roll initiative.
And the other is summoning this little fiery elemental that looks remarkably similar to the wizard's flaming sphere spell.
7,
20.
20.
And that's because I like the mini so much I wanted to use it as a monster in this case.
All right. Bluebell the Drow, you're the fastest of the guys who rolled 20, so you get to go first.
If you get in a cloud, maybe you can do frozen arrows.
Yeah.
This appears to be some sort of fire element.
And now we see again the benefits of cool terrain.
6.
The heroes get to use the cold gas clouds to their advantage.
3, 4, 5, yes.
Oh, nice. Front line.
All right.
Look at that, guys. We can all take one of our own.
You can make a ranged attack if you want to.
Let's do a range.
There were 5 clouds on the map there.
attack.
As
And
you
not
lift your
coincidentally,
longbow, you see
5
your arrow
characters.
Sort of coated in cold energy.
He's not gonna like this.
Hunter's Quarry.
The flaming elemental was my own variant of a basic fire elemental, created solely because I wanted to use the miniature, of course, but
Use the minor
also because I wanted a fire creature for them to fight,
All it does is it gives you extra
and they could use the cold clouds against it. And I wanted this fire elemental to have cold vulnerability, so it would take more damage
Plus 3.
Okay, and then on
from
top
the
of that,
cold.
roll a d6. But the first thing you have to do is try to hit it. And
Which
to do
is
that,
my
you roll a
D20?
D20. Yeah.
Alright.
Big roll.
10.
Plus
Plus.
anything? It's the number right next to where your longbow is in the box.
5.
15.
15 is not enough to hit it. The arrow misses and bursts into snowflakes on impact.
The arrow misses and bursts into snowflakes on impact. I actually like things like that. Whenever I'm DMing, one of the things I try to do is to turn the combat into more than just a series of numbers, damage values, and hit rolls and things like that. It's kind of boring just to say, you know, roll to attack. I rolled a 20. You hit. I do 5 damage. And that's it. I try to inject a little bit of color into the character's actions when the players themselves do not.
Plus 7. Oh, no.
Basically, I picture how I would see it in a movie and then try to describe that as succinctly as possible.
Next is Steel Diamond.
Is that column of flame still doing this? Or
Yes.
Do I have
No, it is
so
now.
if I go here, I don't have a line of sight?
You do. The flames are not perfectly solid. It's not like you can't see through them.
Okay, so I'm going to set up here. Ooh, magic stuff.
Ooh, it's
And
all
I'm
chilly.
going to use my once-a-day stirring shout.
All right.
All right, now this is why the party is glad that Steel Diamond is alive.
Okay. Make an attack roll.
And just to tell everybody, until the end of the encounter, the whole encounter,
Yep.
whenever an ally of mine hits the target, that ally regains hit points equal to my charisma modifier, which is +5. So
Nice.
Sweet.
if I hit, you're welcome.
Wow.
All right. So
I'm glad you're not dead.
This is a +5.
yeah,
21.
that is going to hit it. In addition, you deal an extra D6.
All right, Doug has waited for many, many hours to get this moment in the sun.
So 4, 7, 11, +5, 16 points of damage.
Okay. You'll also be pleased to know that this monster has something called vulnerability to cold, which means it takes an extra 5 damage every time it's hit by a cold attack. So you actually did 21 points of damage.
Wow.
So now remember, anybody hits this guy, he gets 5 hit points back.
Yeah.
No.
See, Steel Diamond's cool. Bards are cool. It's all good.
Anyone who hits it gets
No,
5
not he.
points. Right.
You.
Right.
Yeah.
He meaning we.
He meaning we, who is us, not him.
All right. That was steel. Next up is the rolling fireball.
Oh dear.
right.
I should not have taken point.
It goes 1, 2, 3, enters your square, 4,
But it's a cold square.
5, 6, 7, 8. And it will end its movement there.
The rolling ball has an ability similar to some trample effects of other monsters, which basically allow it to freely move through character spaces and deal damage to them as it passes by. The creature is categorized as a skirmisher, so it's highly mobile.
22. Your reflex defense is on your cheat card there. It's
Probably less than 20.
REF.
14.
Okay, he totally hit you.
Which brings me to the conversation about monster
He does a
design.
total of 9 fire damage to you.
Okay.
I love 4th edition monster design. Probably been my favorite thing about the new edition. You start by choosing a monster role and a level. And these two things basically determine all of the creature's basic stats, its hit points and
Does
whatnot.
he get an opportunity attack?
No, that's the special ability of this thing.
Kind of like the
But the
bat.
creative effort of monster design really goes into the creation of its powers.
That was it. So we are at Ranrock, who is not standing in a cloud.
Wink.
Hey, boys.
It's not a cold cloud.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Brave.
It's called balls.
Brave.
Okay.
And are we pretending I picked up my javelins?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, Ranrock has his javelins. I am not a stickler for keeping track of weapon and ammunition expenditures. I assume if they've taken a short rest, they would have gathered up all of their salvageable belongings.
Marked for death.
I can mark someone as a target and then...
So going back to monster design briefly, the trick to coming up with, I believe, interesting monsters is to identify the monster's shtick. You know, what cool thing or things does it do that are iconic to that creature? And then the trick becomes to build, or the task or the challenge becomes to build a couple, 1 or 2 powers that really kind of capture that.
Jaundice.
And sometimes it's fine to lift a power from another similar monster.
Move 1,
Other times you want the monster to do something weird,
5,
like
6. Towards
teleport
the blue
a
cloud.
target when it hits, or
Take aim at my friend and use my daily power.
impart some sort of
Area
damaging
burst 1
aura
within 20
effect to the
squares.
target that's hit, or
Put the
who knows.
burst right on his head. This is an attack versus his will defense.
But
It's
what's
a
good about
phantom chasm.
monster design is that
I create the image of a
it kind of
bottomless
puts the
cavern
creative
that
effort in the right
opens beneath
place,
him,
and it makes all of the
convincing him
mechanical
that they are
stuff as
plummeting
easy
to
as
their
possible.
depths. So we're getting psychological on him.
This thing might not think.
And I roll a 19 against his will.
That hits.
Okay, and it does 2d6 plus 5.
The best encounters always include monsters of varying roles.
Psychic damage, yes. And the target will become prone and immobilized until the end of its next turn. So I do 4, 5, 9 damage.
Dan does the smart thing here by immobilizing the highly immobile skirmisher.
Okay.
Locking it down like that is actually tremendously smart.
Awesome.
Does he get 5 hit points back for that? Yes, he does.
Do I get 5?
Ah, thank you. No, I had done a healing surge before.
Okay.
But it still feels good. I get just kind of a tingle.
Did you do damage?
Nope.
All right.
That was my
But he
daily.
did.
Only
Well
one
done.
person can be in a
I like the
cloud.
cards.
And they gain the benefit of the bard's power with their hit points. Awesome, awesome steel diamond.
Fire my longbow at
All
him.
right.
8 plus 5.
No, sadly.
So I miss him again.
Yeah.
All right.
Bummer. Kai.
Now, only one person can be in a cloud.
Okay, it's only taken 23 segments, but this is the segment where they actually get the shield. Yeah.
Take him out. I need help.
12 plus 6.
That hits.
All right. Nice.
And so your damage is, oops, sorry, a d6 plus 4, plus another d6 for the cold that you're standing in.
The extra d6 damage the heroes do while standing in the cold cloud lets the players roll multiple dice, which is always gratifying.
You get 5 hit points if
It is bloodied.
Rolling 2d6 is 4 times cooler than rolling 1d6.
tracking them on here.
Like exponential gratification.
All right.
And just as a point of fact, the more dice you have in your hand, the happier you are.
He's going to blow us up.
That's good news.
I'm going to enact a misdirected mark.
The more dice the DM has in his hands, the unhappier you are.
D8 plus 5 damage.
That's the corollary.
I rolled an 11.
That's a miss.
Okay. And then I'm going to move.
The heroes are dominating this particular fight with the elemental because they're using the terrain to their
It is
advantage.
immobilized, so it does nothing. It still thinks it's falling down a chasm. Then we jump to Ranrock.
Every so often, I like putting villains and monsters in situations where they're at the disadvantage.
Unless he stepped out of that.
It's very gratifying to players to feel like that they have the edge in a fight. In my mind, I sort of equate it to completing gray or green quests in World of Warcraft.
1d6 plus 5.
They can still be a lot of fun even though you know that you're not in any great
11.
mortal peril.
In the cold.
Oh, okay. So 6 plus 1.
So 7 plus 5 because he's vulnerable to cold, so 12.
This would have been a much trickier fight if they had somehow failed the skill challenge earlier while they were still fighting sturges and skeletons. But I always had it in my mind that chances were this would be kind of like a standalone fight.
All right, he's going to get my at-will Phantom Bolt, but first I will back up.
All right.
I hope I still have range. It's
Yes,
range 10, so
you sure
we're
do.
good. Okay, and it's a plus 5 to 19. Yes. Woohoo! So it does 1d8 plus 5.
And add an extra d6 on top of that.
So that's 8, and the d6 is 11.
You destroy it.
Look at that, they crushed that elemental.
As a matter of fact, it is. And the circle around the sarcophagus is deactivated. It shuts down.
And I'm going to take the rest of that gold.
All right. And I assume you're going to try to crack the lock?
Yes.
All right.
So I'm going to hustle on over there.
I love that Doug actually took the little gold tokens. All right, there's one final challenge in this multi-challenge encounter, and that is unlocking the sarcophagus. And I really wanted to make this Tom's moment in the sun.
Yes, you have.
Anyone
But
have
you
thievery?
have to be trained. That's the trick. And I don't think any of you are.
We all go to community college.
Yes. So you're on your own.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine untrained characters actually kind of figuring out how to get into this chest. Or not chest, I should say, the sarcophagus.
You notice that there is some consequence to failure.
Notice it's been opened.
Which is to say that some of the locks on this sarcophagus are fake. And you're trying to ascertain the correct one.
Perhaps Arcana?
I like the idea that it's not simply enough to unlock the sarcophagus. You have to unlock the right lock of the sarcophagus, and the other ones are actually booby traps.
Basically, if you fail your check, it kind of means you were farting around with the wrong one.
Sort of very Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Everyone be rolling thievery to help me out?
They can't
We're not
because it's
trained
trained only.
Sorry, Tom, you're on your own.
I think means actually give
It's all you, buddy.
trying to pickpocket someone and
gold,
leave stuff
please.
behind.
You know, I'm sorry, I took this earlier.
Your watch.
Take my watch.
Slips into their pocket.
Fortunately, the lock doesn't look too complicated.
Losing my ass here.
All right, here we go. Ugh, 9.
Plus your thievery bonus.
2.
11. Okay, you get electrocuted. For 8 lightning damage.
Tom's like, seriously? We've come this far and I'm getting electrocuted by a lock?
I was gonna say.
All right.
You can
everyone
try
else wanted
again.
to- Yeah, well, do I have to use my action point?
No, you don't.
Yeah,
Because everyone's just saying
yeah,
that.
Yeah,
All right,
they're
here we
just
go.
watching.
We're going to
looking.
get this done.
All right.
19.
All right.
21.
Okay, with a 21, you do it. The sarcophagus clicks open. Some
Victory.
dwarven bones come tumbling out, but you see
Let's make a soup.
that there is a big-ass shield in there. Yeah! And you can see hanging from the shield are some desiccated, rotten, shriveled orc heads.
I'm not concerned with it.
So you pull the shield out.
All right, and they get the big ass shield.
There's really nothing to stop you now from leaving this place by the route that you came.
Now all they have to do is escape.
Back.
Well,
Well, there's that. But you got your
Who's
zip
got
line.
that rope?
Oh, okay, great. So,
Nice.
are you planning to go back the way you came?
we were rapidly approaching the end of the session at this point. There were people off camera giving me all kinds of signs, like, you got 30 minutes left, you got 20 minutes left.
Yeah, we should show the flamethrower.
So I was getting all these signals to wrap things up, and over these final 3 segments, or actually 2 segments really, you'll see me really trying to push things along a bit more. I'm starting to talk over people more, and
Hey!
Let's go back and show the
And
shield.
take all of her stuff and then take the gold.
here they're talking about betraying their benefactor, keeping the shield for themselves.
He's thinking straight.
And that seems like a very drow thing to do.
I want to go back a different way than when
You
the
do?
way we
I don't know.
came,
Do we have
yeah.
time? What if we
I admire Tom's characterization of Bluebell.
And everyone will wonder whatever became.
All right, we're going out through that hall.
It'll be like how the Dungeons and
Let's
Dragons
check out that
cartoon
hall.
show.
So they have a choice. They can either go back out the way they came, which they know has been purged of monsters, or they can travel the unknown route. And
Something called athletics as a skill which
somewhat to my astonishment, they chose the way they haven't gone before.
From athletics.
I've got a 10 athletic.
These guys are just blithely
roll a 10 to successfully
trundling into danger.
Can I look at Bluebell?
I didn't want to belabor the getting over the fissure into the hall. The crack in the floor was already a challenge that they had adequately overcome.
As fast as I can. Literally pushing him out of the way. diving across, okay?
Impress. Oh, wow, you did it. Oh, wait, did you?
Yeah, I've got a +6, so I'm.
On athletics?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sweet.
Maybe I might even use a minor to turn back around and give a follow-up wink.
Anybody else want to make that leap?
Yeah, we're not going in order anymore, right? Ooh. What did you get? 3. Plus my athletics is 8.
Oh, you made it.
So we've only been in one encounter since before, so we
18 plus a 10.
we don't get back our action points or anything.
Yeah, right.
Anybody else want to jump over? There are only 2.
Dan, you go first.
By the way, who's got the shield? Just out of curiosity. Who's carrying that bad boy?
got it.
All right.
Keep in mind, guys, I'm down to 8 hit points.
Am I going
You might have
higher
to take
or
the shield
lower?
off my body.
Am I
Oh, and
climbing
you're
or
out of the.
We can
Out of
can we use
surges.
tensors again?
Yes.
Ooh, Bluebell's got only 8 hit points left and no surges. Yeah, that's
Tensors
scary.
is described to me here as a ritual.
So tell me again why we're going this way instead of the safe way?
Once, and should there
No, you can do rituals over and over again. It just costs money, which we'll assume you now have. So,
Oh, okay. Well, I'll do it again.
all
Are
right.
you down to what your current hit
That leaves the bard.
Can I use this between encounters?
Is it a combat
It's
power?
a healing, arcane healing thingy.
No.
Can I use my second wind to give to
All right,
Blue
well,
Bell?
Yep.
I'm gonna roll this athletic thing of a +0.
We get these back after every encounter, right?
Yeah, you get the reds back.
10.
Okay.
That's all you need.
Just not the action point.
Okay, you guys can actually take like a 5-minute break, theoretically here, to rest up, spend your healing surges, if you have them, and get hit points back if you want.
I have none left.
Okay.
My daily and my action.
Bluebell is out of healing surges, which means my mission has been accomplished. I'm Chris Perkins.
When you walk back that way,
This
the hallway,
is the end, my friends.
there are 2 frozen dwarves holding levers, which appear to be to these doors, which are in the open.
They are on the way out of the dungeon.
So you have absolutely nothing stopping you on your way out there. So the question is, are you planning to go fight spiders, or are you going to just skedaddle and talk to the
Why would
spiders?
we fight spiders?
Where's our
Get
flamethrower?
the flamethrower, which is right around that corner. Go through the drum room and around to the spiders.
Yep.
All right.
And just clean this place out, because that architect was such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Hey, we never used that gem. In
Yeah, we still got the gem.
Ah, yes, the players remember the gem that they got from the dwarven face early in the adventure. How many times does that happen in your games? The heroes receive some crucial bit of information or some useful item, and then completely forget about it.
To around here.
All right.
And this guy's leading the way.
That's up to you guys.
I believe this is the point where they actually give the ballista a name.
I'll get behind it.
Did anyone tell him that we got the shield? I think he'd be excited. Should we check out if there's treasure in that?
You guys
window,
want to
right?
name him? What name do you want to give him? I'll tell him. Yeah.
I love that they want to name the ballista. That is awesome.
This way,
The name they actually give him, not so awesome.
All right.
Your name is Spitfire Hot Stuff Caliente the Fourth,
Lead this thing in.
and I will have it move ahead of me at whatever range it can until it encounters something alive.
The heroes could simply backtrack and leave, but no.
All dangling
They decide to go into the one area they avoided earlier, the cave with the spiders.
But they clearly look lifeless to you.
And the spiders consist of a mother spider, which was a controller, and 4 spider minions.
All right.
What was cool about this encounter, even though I pretty much bulldozed my way through it, was that the mother spider can pull the strands of her massive web to animate the dangling skeletal dwarf corpses.
And you hear this sort of squeeze.
That was a pretty cool visual in my mind, the idea of this spider puppeteer. She also had an entangling web attack that didn't really come into play, at least I don't remember it did.
Wait, Tom, can you throw your gem?
He's got it covered.
He's holding on to that gem?
I'm sure.
The heroes do the smart thing and send in the ballista first. And it really expedites the battle, which is a good thing since the clock is counting down.
Hey, everybody, get 3 wishes.
Everybody roll initiative for me. Of Steel, Jaundice, and Ranrock, who goes first?
You rolled a 5?
I rolled a 5, and then you beat me.
We both got
Okay,
5s and
okay.
rolled, and
Okay.
you won. So I'm
Okay.
last. I think
right.
Zeb's first.
All right.
Or
Got
rather,
it. And those who rolled
Ran-
7s,
If there was more time, I would have made this a more harrowing encounter.
then it is the spider's turn.
Uh-oh.
This one's actually dead because you caught it in that blast.
Good. You want to call it 1?
One last thing.
So we're standing right next to the exit, right?
Yeah. They will leap down and attack the construct.
Does it have anything to say about that?
Thanks, fellas.
This isn't what I was made for. All right, they clamp onto it ineffectually. And then it is Mother Spider stays back there, and we have got...
Old Ranrock. Now, if I step into here, will I be in this guy's blast area?
Not unless he says so.
Okay. So I'm going to, or can I even make it here?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to come here.
You totally can.
And I'm going to do a cleave
Yep.
on these 2.
Oh, because we're starting fresh.
They are minions, so if you hit
Okay.
them, they'll just die.
I
You
got
hit,
him.
well, hit that guy.
We'll just resolve this bit with Ranrock here.
Plus 8, 18.
I actually do have things to say. I'm not swept up in the game.
It is Steel's turn.
I'm going to walk back to the...
I already know how it ends.
and say, hey. What is it?
Hello.
By the way, I just want to say again, that is one great map.
Well,
Damn,
isn't that
I'm
a
good.
surprise? Nice work. Well done.
Ah, yes, and I get to speak to the dwarven face one more time. With his inexplicable southern accent.
Anything else you want to say? Your mother and I are very proud of you. He says, so, are you going after the other 3 or the other 2?
Are they here?
He says, by Moradin's beard, no.
Ah, Moradin's beard, no!
Yes, let us schedule a
Don't know
time
where I
for
came up with that.
Take out your date book, let's schedule a time.
He says, I'm one of the builders of this here tomb. I didn't have anything to do with the other ones.
Oh, here's me hearkening back to future adventure possibilities.
On your own. What is that noise I hear, by the way?
Oh, we got a flamethrower.
We're trying to clear out these.
There's me making explosion noises. One of my favorite pastimes.
Do you want to command this thing to do anything?
It's pretty much how I spend my Saturdays. Walking the dog, making explosion noises.
Yeah, I want him to.
No, not those kind of explosion noises.
Oh,
Get your heads out of the gutter.
So do me a favor and roll 2d. Actually, don't roll anything. I just max it out. Spider will make a loud noise as Mama Spider burns. Thank you very much. Well done. You know, with this thing in your possession, you're probably going to own this.
It would be cool to see someone, not necessarily me, do a 3-part series that included this adventure and the other 2 dwarven tombs. The Tomb of the Heartless Dwarf and the Tomb of the Iron Warlord. I had envisioned the Heartless Dwarf as this being this sort of undead dwarf whose heart had been ripped out, and in order to kill him, you had to destroy his heart first. I thought that was kind of cool. Again, not my idea. It's been done before. I remember a monster or a creature in the original first edition adventure, Pharaoh, that had a very similar trait.
5 to hit. 15.
And the Iron Warlord I actually envisioned as this dwarf who was somehow, through some sort of magical ritual or mishap, transformed into iron, and hence his name.
Only does 6.
Sort of like a living golem.
She lives. She's bloodied, by the way.
He'd probably bond with Ranrock pretty well.
Kai's turn.
But what's left to do? I want to ride this thing like Slim Pickens at the end of.
That's
And
awesome.
from there, can I don't know, throw a javelin at
Yeah,
the
you totally could.
All right, here we go.
Oh, that's pretty.
11 plus, what's the javelin? 6.
That's going to hit her. Yes.
Woo! Just like Zygon.
And damage, please.
Damage.
D6 plus 4. Yep.
9.
All right, it sticks in her. She squeezed some more, but she's still hanging.
This encounter doesn't have the dramatic tension of the previous encounter, but still, players are having a great time, because they are kicking ass.
Into position. I'm going to throw down that gem.
Yeah!
And see what happens.
Bluebell smashes the gem and unleashes.
Gigantic earth elemental appears
Oh!
and just smashes the spider to a pulp.
Here's me taking over the narrative at this point and having the ballista and elemental pretty much demolish all the remaining opposition. Right now we're about 5 minutes away from countdown to end of session.
More stuff down there. Tell it to crush everything in its path.
Yes, it will go off and meander down here and crush puppets.
Bring us treasure.
When it starts to beat on this thing, a spider swarm comes pouring out of it.
The spider swarm comes out of the dead beholder.
Stomping on the spider swarm and beating things up, which allows you to quietly withdraw. However, you can't take your Arcane Ballista with you because it won't fit up the stairs.
Thank you, guys.
Back where the old woman was.
All right.
My goal
So
with this
Sort of give it a hug.
whole
and I
enterprise.
sort of say, like,
Oh, wait.
I shed a tear, and I wish you
Aw.
could come with me. And it sort of says,
I know I'm your favorite.
I'll be right here. And
Jaundice bids the ballista a tearful farewell.
And as I look back down the stairway, it just goes like
Or is it the
that.
ballad version of Hot Times?
My goal was not to do anything remarkable. If someone who's never DM'd before comes away from these video casts thinking, that doesn't look hard at all, I want to try running a game, then I've accomplished something.
We're trying to build a good rep.
Guys, it's our first job. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Give her the
All right.
shield.
I guess we'll have to pick that up another time.
What?
Thank
Thank you, Chris.
And thus endeth the game. The game is done. No one died, and I feel like a complete failure as a DM. No, seriously though, I don't think it's the DM's job to kill characters. The DM should be looking for ways to encourage character development, to create a memorable, recountable experience, both for the combat-thirsty players as well as the role players in the group.
Yeah, the online character builder lets you print all your cards.
Will this adventure ever see print?
Keep your characters in your cards.
Probably
That's great.
not.
I need the minis back. That's
I mean, to some extent, what's the point? But maybe I'll put the monster stats somewhere at some point, so DMs who have seen these video casts can kind of replicate the experience for their home groups.
Feel good about that.
For the first time out, they did just fine. It's always a privilege to run a game for new players, and I expect we haven't seen the last of this band of miscreants.
You know?
You know what? Actually, that's the thing.
I'm referring to the characters, of course.
Yeah. Because basically, we're going to do a weekly program where it's like...
The disembodied voice you hear belongs to one of our marketing folks, Mark Jessup, who's talking about the D&D Encounters program.
Every week, and like people go to the game store, and this is basically what they do. They're going to be playing through Undermountain every week.
This is not sanctioned yet because I just wrote it for you guys. That's all.
I just wrote it for you guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I would like to thank Ed Greenwood for creating the original Undermountain, the greatest dungeon in the Forgotten Realms campaign world, a source of endless adventure and imagination. I want to thank the filmmakers here for capturing the spirit of this game, as well as my glorious maps.
And all the people who made the most like XP.
I want to thank
throughout the season,
Mark Jessup, Kurt Eisensee, and Laura Tomervik, our marketing folks, who sat off camera for the entire videotaping and didn't have any of the fun.
This is my pleasure.
That was great.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's pretty cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, totally.
They were very nervous. They're like, we don't know how to play.
And I want to thank the guys for playing my adventure. We're sitting around a table surrounded by a lake of rainwater,
Yeah.
and for letting me throw them into perils aplenty. And Don Milano in particular for getting the ball rolling and bringing the group together.
There was laughter, there was tears.
When we originally concepted this idea, it wasn't going to be live players at all. The idea that Dan and I originally talked about was running the game for puppets. Greg the Bunny and Company. Boy, wouldn't that have been retarded. Yet fun. Bye. This is Chris Perkins signing off.